Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this exciting TV broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow, the day after that, and the day after that, because that's the way we broadcast news, and that's the way you consume entertainment. Won't change anytime soon. For the Mitt TV, I'm Tim Meyer. Tim Meyer.
You Tim Meyer?
I said Tim Meyer.
They said you were coming.
Is what they say true?
See for yourself.
What's this?
They call it a podcast studio.
What the heck's a podcast studio?
It's a studio for podcasting. Superior sound, visuals, allowing the viewer to either watch or listen for an intimate experience of long-form content.
Long-form content?
Without any restrictions from any cable or network provider, there's no telling how long it can be.
Is it affordable?
You have no idea.
What's he doing?
Found him here in the studio. Recent college graduate trying to start a podcast with his friends after debating the existence of God in women's sports.
How come I can't hear him?
Steven builds a spy house through the intergalactic satellite system. Also buy my merch with my special creator code.
How long before this becomes accessible?
It already has.
If you or someone you know is looking to start a podcast for business or personal use, look no further than the Mitt TV. With hourly rates starting as low as $1.60 an hour, the Mitt TV grants access to state-of-the-art podcast studio, allowing you to record perfect audio, amazing video for your audience. Contact the Mitt TV today at mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. This job stinks.
So.
More when the fourth.
Don't you call
Does it look almost?
Ooh. Yo, this is Kowalski with the Mitt TV. How we doing?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
How can I help you today?
I'm trying to watch the Mitt TV
That's awesome. Where are you trying to watch the Mitt TV at?
on my TV.
Perfect.
Let me break it down for you.
Yeah!
Here at the Mitt TV, we offer a whole slew of content, from community events, Romeo Community Schools, sports, and everyone's favorite, the Village of Romeo board meetings. Just find the YouTube app and in the search bar type at the Mitt TV. Once you find our channel, you can go to the videos tab for our entire catalog of videos.
What if I'm trying to watch something live?
It is so easy you have no idea. Just click the live tab to find all previous and upcoming live streams.
I see that, but I'm trying to watch an archived Village of Romeo Board of Trustees meeting.
Whoa, alright, board meetings! For any and all archived meetings, select the playlist tab. Not only will you find all meetings for the Village of Romeo organized by year, but you'll also find Romeo Community Schools and Romeo District Library. Our Mitt TV page can also be accessed on your smartphone. Just download and open the YouTube app and type at the Mitt TV in the search bar, and there you go. Or if you're on a computer, find the search bar at the top of your window and type youtube.com/@themitttv.
Sweet.
Another satisfied customer.
The regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees of Romeo.
Sick.
Would you all please stand?
We'll call our special Board of Trustees meeting for April 30th, 2025 to order. Let us stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Lucero, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Bartholomew? Here. Edwards?
Here.
Fowler?
Yes.
Kerr?
Here.
Parker?
Present.
Rosso?
Here.
President Poznanski?
Here. Okay, moving into our approval of agenda. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented for April 30th, 2025.
Support.
We have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew, approving agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have none opposed. Moving into our public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Okay. Danielle Lee, 171 Tilson. As a concerned resident, I'd like to express my apprehension regarding the board's accountability to the village residents. As we are the ones who pay taxes and by extension your salaries, I expect that the interests of our village and its residents be prioritized. I'm struggling to trust the board's commitments moving forward. For instance, allowing the GSAPS group to present updates on their progress may have given them false hope regarding support for their green space initiative on Prospect. Unfortunately, it seems that support may not actually materialize. Similarly, when Abby came to request joining the CBD, it was disheartening to see the proposal was ultimately withdrawn, resulting in lost revenue for the downtown district. I'm concerned about the ability to work collaboratively and in good faith with other organizations. You have expressed a desire for the DDA to focus on infrastructure projects such as parking lots and sidewalks, rather than merely organizing events. While the DDA has made sincere efforts to address these concerns, it still seems insufficient. You indicated that paid parking program would be reviewed after 6 months to assess its progress. While you might argue that it was 6 months from the time of approval, we all recognize that this timeline does not accurately reflect the program's implementation. This 6-month timeframe should begin once the program was fully operational. Analyzing just 1 month's worth of data does not provide enough insight into its effectiveness, even if it did indicate the increase in visitor trends. Unfortunately, it appears that the decision was made to eliminate what could be perceived as a headache rather than demonstrate the leadership expected from your positions. This approach raises concerns about financial responsibility and questions whether you genuinely wish to foster partnerships with organizations that could aid our community, or if you prefer to maintain a more controlling stance. It was expressed that we need creative solutions to effectively budget for the projects that our village urgently requires. And I agree, I think that's a great way to tackle this. I'm genuinely interested in understanding who we envision as responsible for generating these solutions. It's concerning to me that since January, the board has not taken action to address the reports from your own accountants who have repeatedly indicated we are facing a revenue problem. How many times do they need to convey this message before it's taken seriously? Do you find it challenging to accept their assessment, or is there a reluctance to confront the situation? I sincerely wish to comprehend your thought process behind these decisions. It is essential to maintain transparency with your constituents and to engage in sincere dialogue rather than simply accommodating whoever may be present. I strongly encourage you to reconsider some of the revenue sources that were dismissed too quickly before agreeing to raise taxes for village residents. Paid parking was never going to cover all the costs of parking lots, but it could have helped us secure a grant. Thank you.
Hello, Andrea St. Laurent, 170 Pleasant and 262 Fairgrove. This is the second meeting that I've attended specifically focused on the budget. At each of these meetings, I and others have asked a critical question. How is the village addressing revenue shortages in order to meet our required commitments? And yet, meeting after meeting, that question has gone unanswered. We continue to hear the same refrain from the board. Creative thinking is needed to solve our financial challenges. We also continue to hear from the accountants and financial advisors that this is not an issue that can be simply resolved by cutting expenses. The message is clear: new sustainable sources of revenue must be found. But as we approach the end of budget season, what have we seen? Beyond the proposal to raise taxes to fund police and fire, what concrete, creative steps has this village council actually taken to close the revenue gap to address all the other items, including parking lots? We as residents are listening and we are paying attention, and frankly, we deserve more than vague statements about thinking creatively. We deserve transparency, accountability, and action. I would also like to address a statement that was made at the last budget meeting regarding the parking lots. It was stated that there was a discussion of leasing the lots for $1 and essentially the DDA taking care of them. As the other person in that conversation, that is not the expectation of the DDA. What I had suggested was if the village is unable to maintain their parking lots, they can deed them or sell them to the DDA at an appropriate price that would allow the DDA to take care of them, if the DDA board felt that they would be able to do so successfully. At this point, the DDA would not entertain partnership with the village council on taking care of any of your property without a change in ownership. It would be a bad decision for the DDA to spend money on someone else's property. Additionally, given your ability to be a good partner, if the property was owned by the DDA, that would certainly be a discussion the DDA would be willing to have. I see that after the discussion at the last budget's meeting to eliminate pay for board members, it is still on the proposed budget being presented tonight. Does this board plan on seeing through with those proposed changes? So I will ask again, as I have asked before, and will continue to ask, what is the village doing specifically and creatively to address revenue shortages beyond tax increases and talk? When will you provide an answer to your constituents, those that elected you based on your ability to make hard decisions? What is your plan? Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay. We will close public comment and move into our unfinished business. First, we have our bills to pay. We have bills in the amount of $43,234.97 and $917,768.45. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Edwards, support by Bartholomew. Do we have any discussion?
What are those totals again, Megan? I'm sorry.
The first one is on the bottom of their vendor activity report.
Yeah.
And then on the third page of your check register. Hearing no discussion, Clerk Lucero, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Rosso,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Carey,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
President Business.
Yes. Okay, moving into our draft budget. Tonight, we decided on a kind of a dual, putting something in your hand so you had stuff to look at beforehand, but then also still moving parts around live, whatever we might decide, given what's in our hands. In yellow are some of the discussions we've had, so you see what it would look like if these adjustments are made. So, Danielle.
So hello, everybody. Nice to see you again. Before we move to the general fund, we did meet, myself and Jamie met with the cemetery board on Tuesday, and they would like the board to reconsider the decision on the levy. They would like to ask that the board raise it up to the maximum millage of .7174. They have identified preliminarily costs that could be used to expand Section 13, as well as other maintenance needs within the cemetery that could be used for that revenue.
Section 13.
Mhm.
Where? Can I ask? Yes, please.
So,
You guys know Section 13?
yeah, I took Jamie on a tour. So if this is the water tower, Here's Walter Sheets. All right.
What's right over here?
Yep, it's right behind these three.
While she's showing, Trustee Fowler, I'll just explain for you guys. It's,
It goes right here.
thank you. It's, if you're looking at the water tower, if you're looking directly south from here at the water tower,
So-
yeah, it's up on the hill. Think the
This shows
the
on
property over
floor,
here that has the RV on it,
cemetery,
it's right
water.
behind it.
So it's
It's a
just to
large
the east
square.
of the water tower and
About an
that
acre.
wood
Yeah.
kind of lower
Yeah,
area.
it's about well, no, it's tabletop down. It
Yeah,
goes up.
It goes up.
It goes up, yes, to the.
So
private
where
property.
the RV is over there, it's right behind that property.
Right behind that property, those three homes.
So it would go from there all the way down to where the water tower property is?
Yes.
So it goes a little bit beyond the water tower.
About an acre of land?
It's property that the village has had for many years.
Yep, it was
About
purchased
an
in the
acre?
90s. It's like an acre, a little under an acre and a quarter.
Yep.
Does anybody else see the map?
I saw, I was looking over his shoulder.
Okay, so are you familiar with where it's at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
There's been discussion in the past, and at that time, was presented a need for a road in order to access it. There's not a need for a road, there's just gonna be a different entrance, or eventually put in a road also, either or.
Couldn't we just
But
tap
it
into the
doesn't
road
need
here?
to.
and Connect the road from our current cemetery to this Sheets
But you
Drive?
don't even need that, just drive up Walter Sheets and you just have a separate entrance, but there's other things that could be done.
There's a few different options that we discussed for access and expansion until that kind of materializes a little bit more. I'm not at liberty to talk about that in total based on the advice of Mr. Clark. But there are other options as well that we're exploring. I think as I'm the village liaison to that board, I would advise you guys as well to consider it because we're at capacity right now, and until we learn from the school where exactly we are, I just had another meeting with the school, still keeping that discussion open, what we can do with the retention pond area and diverting whatever water comes into our property. Maybe there's some way we can divert it a little bit more.
Now, as, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
before you came on and became the clerk, Ms. Matone and Shelley and myself and Mr. Parker,
Yeah.
we looked into that property. And we did have communications with the school.
Which
And,
property, the retention
by-
pond?
Yeah, detention pond
Yeah, yeah.
area by the water tower, and I think that we did look at that property to possibly expanding it. That's the day that we had the, Mr. King out there, who said that we could possibly use that as a burial site, pack it in whatsoever, and I think we asked Mr. Clark regarding the runoff from the school, and he indicated that it was created, it wasn't a natural runoff.
Correct.
So the fact that it wasn't a natural runoff is something that they created to make that pond there. And there was no written agreement or something in place for them to do that, but they just took advantage of it at the time. I mean, this is just a discussion before you came into place. I think we had this with Ms. Matone and
Yeah.
so just so you bring you up to date of the conversations that were going on before you sat down.
So I went through all the meeting minutes. Like I said, one of my first initiatives when I got here was to try and preserve our history, so we at least had it somewhere in a digital format.
The history, I'm sorry.
Of the village, the meeting minutes. And I found in 1966, we did grant an easement to the north, but it doesn't identify exactly what, that's some of the reason why I write the minutes the way I do.
You mean the
So-
softball field north?
No, for the north corner of the cemetery, it states in the meeting minutes to grant an easement for that, but there's really nothing of substance in there. And Mr. Clark and I did speak about this recently, and we spoke a little bit about what you just said. You know, I think it's Eagle that says that you can't, the natural flow of water, you have to allow it. But once it goes into any kind of discharge pipe, now it becomes a forced water issue.
They created a
And,
situation.
yeah, and
Correct.
the problem is that now, that football field that they're building up there, they've added 20, 30 feet up. So now it creates even more runoff, to the point where I went out there with Miss Martone the other day, and it was deeper than it had been historically any other day. So it's going to take us talking to the school, getting them to essentially figure it out, because now by them building that up as well, they're creating even more of a situation. That's something that Mr. Clark and I spoke about.
Correct. Legally, with the conversation with Mr. Clark, since that was a man-made creation by them.
Yes.
We could sever that tie.
Well,
and
if there is
their own runoff, basically going down Sheets Drive.
So again, the minutes that I have state that we granted an easement, but there's no documentation. If the school walks up to us with documentation from that period that says, no, here's a contract.
See, we had asked, I'm sorry, but we had looked for that information, and they couldn't produce it. And,
yeah, they claim they have some things.
Oh, they claim, they finally
claimed. When I met with Todd this week, Mr. Robinson,
they finally claimed.
He said that we have some documents, we need to get them to you, and I said, yes, because I need to know why this exists. I addressed that amongst other things. We have an access road that used to run along the east side of the cemetery, because there used to be a pump house back there by the retention pond area.
Okay.
And sometime between 1974 and 1984, and this is just per aerial photos, when they expanded that parking lot, they essentially annexed that road from us. There are no agreements on file with the village. So a large portion of that, so if you pull into the middle school.
Jim, the west side, correct? You said
west side, yes, sorry.
Where the softball fields are, correct?
No.
High school park.
High school, in between the high school, or middle school now.
It's like a first parking space all along the fence.
I meant to say the east side of the school property, west side of our property, but yeah, that first row on the right, if you're pulling into the parking lot, that technically is all ours. And when I spoke with them, they said, well, we had to have had something, we wouldn't have just paved it. And I had laughed, I said, are you sure? Because I know, going back, and Mr. Clark confirmed, there's times that the school district just did what they wanted historically, so we have to find those documents too. So everything's on the table. I told Mr. Robinson, we need to find this out, because and I know your plight. You don't like the fact that you're paying taxes and you can't get buried there. I feel the same way.
I put my name in the list, and Clerk Trapp never even marked me down.
I mean, I feel the same way.
I got my shovel
and there's a lot of residents that feel the same way. And now when I get a phone call, it's not only I pay taxes and can't to upkeep that and can't utilize it, but now people have found out by looking at GIS. Wait a minute, I pay taxes for property that the school now has, and I pay a school millage. Why am I paying for a cemetery millage?
Let's keep cutting you off. So your plan of attack, our plan of attack, is to basically make them produce a document. Have you gotten that far?
I mean, they say I'm going to be getting.
That's where we were.
Right.
With the conversations with Ms. Matone and us. We were like, produce the documents. And our conversation with Mark is, that's when he told us they created the situation. It wasn't a natural runoff. So legally, it shouldn't be there. So our conversation with the superintendent was, show us the documentation where we made an agreement with you to do this, and they couldn't do it. So are you at that point yet? Like, show me?
Yeah, no, I told them that, and I'm still going through our records as well, because I'm trying to.
How much of a timeline are we going to go?
One second, sir. I'm trying to ensure that we're not walking into any kind of legal issue as well, and make sure that all avenues are explored. I asked them to produce the documents. They said they're going to get them to me, and I'm still going through ours, because like I said, I have meeting minutes that state that we granted them, we the village, granted them an easement for that runoff. But if we can't produce anything and they can't produce, well, now the discussion very much so is.
So you have that.
Dig it up.
You have that knowing that we granted them that easement.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, that goes back to, like I said, why I write my minutes the way I do, because those minutes literally just say granted, but it doesn't say that there was a presentation, doesn't say why we did it. It just says on the northwest corner, of the cemetery, an easement is granted to the school.
That's all it says.
Yeah.
Easement, nothing on water,
Yeah.
water run.
Well, I mean, that's the only,
Just
I mean,
easement.
it's inferred in that, in talking to Mark, he's like, yeah, we wouldn't have granted them an easement for anything else than that pipe to come into that area.
Either that, or they just had to get back and forth from the Whitaker baseball fields back and forth to the school.
Well, that was before those baseball fields were even built. Those baseball fields were built in '74, I have all the documents.
Well, the softball fields have been there for a very, very long time.
Okay.
Very,
Well,
very
then-
long time, because as a kid, I grew up there all the time. The
Okay,
village
because
owned
when I was
softball.
looking at documents,
But
it
I'm
said
just
that
talking,
was all built
I'm talking
out.
about the access from the school's property to our softball fields.
Mhm.
You needed an easement granted in order to use them for what the school was using it for.
Well, no,
Which was girls softball,
When-
organized sports.
We wouldn't have granted a little easement for that because they would just be going north. This defines, and I think I have it
Well, okay.
in a picture
I'll
that I
stop
took.
in your office, we'll.
I mean, I can
Pick
send it
it
to you,
up
I can
some more.
email you that piece of minutes as
I'll
well.
stop in and we have a conversation. Okay. I just wanted you to be aware of the conversation that we had previously.
No, and I
before you-
appreciate it, it's valuable, yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, we need to make sure that,
Because that's how we got off dead center on those other lots that Mr. King surveyed,
Mhm.
because we kept pushing the issue, and we finally got the cemetery board and the board to grant the money, so.
yeah.
So,
I'm for it. Sorry.
Okay.
Just had to bring it up to speed.
What kind of time frame do we have to make that decision?
So we are trying to get the tax rates on the meeting in May to give Caroline enough time to be able to prep the tax bills. When we push it to June, it starts to get a little tight for her to be able to get that all together, because she does have 4 townships that she has to get information from, get it in the tax system, and if she doesn't have the rates, she can't send them to the printer. So we are trying to get that done by May. I guess.
What is the actual cutoff, though? What is the deadline for us to make that decision?
In order to get a public hearing, I believe the cutoff is we would have to get the public hearing notice to Jamie by May, I think it's 8th. I believe it's next Thursday, I think, in order to get it in the newspaper for the 6-day advertisement required by law for the public hearing.
Well, I know your guys', per our ordinances, I think it's, what is it, May 15th? It has to be
Let me see.
decided
I
on?
have it on my
no,
calendar.
they already have a proposed
Or was,
budget.
oh, no, it was the proposal, you're right.
Yeah, you gotta propose.
That was May 15th, I keep getting May
Yeah.
15th stuck.
It's the 8th, so next Thursday.
So Danielle, are you saying if we don't do it with this budget, it has to wait a whole nother year?
Yes, you can only levy July 1st. You only levy summer taxes.
Okay, July 1st.
So we could technically do it at the June meeting.
You can, but that really puts a lot of pressure on Caroline to be able to get those tax bills out on time. They have to be in the mail by June 30th, July 1st, by state law.
If we're not ready by May,
Are you
there's the
recognizing
option,
the cemetery?
call another special meeting.
Yeah, we can call
Oh,
a special.
sorry. I've been
Yeah,
facing this way.
I know,
There might be a little confusion here, because we were talking about retention funds.
Debbie, if you could, could you come up, please, just so we're, thank you.
I just want to clarify, because it seems like I even got a little confused. The area we were talking about, trying to, expand more sooner than waiting for the schools, because we've kind of reached a, plateau here. We've got 23 available spots. Are we gonna stop selling plots, or are we gonna move forward expanding? So we thought, well, we'll turn our attention away from retention pond over to the area we already have. So that can get worked out. That's gonna take time, obviously. So the area we're talking about expanding now is not the retention pond, but the area that we already have, which is to the east of the water tower. So just to clarify, any numbers like that I've already gotten proposed and stuff is not the retention pond area. It's the 13th edition that's up on the hill.
And I think it's good to do both. I don't think we need to focus on one or the other.
Right.
Continuing to
Because
go
if that would
forward
work out,
with
it
what
would be
we have.
fabulous. Yeah, but I think that's gonna take time, and we are kind of at like, we're really, yeah, we're at 23 available lots only for emergency use. So we're kind of like, I'm feeling like a sense of urgency, so to move on to somewhere while that gets worked out. And we also do have an engineering survey, or an engineering study that does show how water from the school could be diverted into different pipes that are near the water tower too. So if that agreement works out with the schools, we do have an option to divert some water too, if that would work out with the village. It's like, that's all kind of getting, ahead of ourselves at this point, but we do have an engineering study that looks like it would be feasible, that then we could fill in the water retention pond and be okay. So the problem is that we're just gonna need funding for all of that when it all kind of hits at once.
Can we get a report on that, or do I go through you or ask you?
From the engineer?
Yes.
Yeah, I can, I've got a big map at home.
Okay.
I'll get it for the next meeting. And just to let you guys know too, when we're talking about an acre, a traditional burials, you can fit about the national average is about 1,000 traditional burials for an acre. So we're talking about 1,000 extra, and the fact that we can do 4 cremains on top of a burial, we are talking about the potential of having upwards of 5,000 burials there, which is significant for the residents.
Ms. Martone, did you say there's 23 spots available still?
There's like around 23 right now.
They're
It's
not
only for
available,
emergency use.
yes.
Yeah, it's only for emergency use at this point.
If you
So
needed
for
to be
those who are
put in it,
passing,
Your family
unfortunately.
could buy you one.
Is that where all the little flags are?
Yes, those are
I saw.
back,
Yeah.
towards that retention pond
Yeah, I
area.
saw
You
that.
see all those flags.
Oh, yeah.
And, as people are passing, we don't want to turn anyone away at this point who has an immediate need. So those are considered emergency burial spots.
So first come, first served.
For
basically.
residents.
Unfortunately for those who pass. Yeah, so.
Okay.
The emergency's over by then, I mean.
But, yeah, unfortunately for those who pass, for immediate use. So we're, that's all we've got.
Okay.
I don't know where else will
I'm
go.
still
All right,
prolonging my agony.
Yeah, sorry.
Debbie, how many burials do we average a year?
It varies, of course, because it's hard to tell now, because for about 2.5 years, we were turning people away. So,
For purchase, correct?
For
We still have lots that are been sold,
no, we were turning them away, like this.
but we still have people that own lots that they're not in them.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So it's hard for me to tell now, because we had that 2.5 years where none were getting sold. They were turning people away. And so I think on average around 20. It might have gone up at COVID time, but around 20 or so. And I think unfortunately now we're doing less because people have the idea that we're full. So, there may not be approaching us like right now. But I do want to make the point clear, because I make this point at every cemetery board meeting, that I know this is taxpayer money and I wouldn't ask for more. If I didn't know that there is an immediate need to expand, we have an opportunity to expand at this point with land we already own. And we're gonna reach our limit again very soon, unfortunately. And I just don't want to turn people away again while we hash out all these particulars. So I've been getting some quotes too.
We talked a little bit, were you able to get a projection or an estimate on what you think it would cost to clear, level, engineered, plotted?
The only thing I don't have an estimate for is honestly the little pins. We're looking at around 200,000 so far to expand into the 13th, but that would include our initial engineering, the excavating, fencing, probably would need a big gate, the road work, the lot survey. I've met with and talked with several people just for roundabout, figures. And so we're looking at, upwards of about 200,000. I think that's on the high end, but just to be safe.
Danielle, could you pull up While we're just on the topic, could you pull up the cemetery in the budget?
Oh, I have it on the screen actually.
Perfect.
That's the cemetery budget.
Can you tell us what page it is, so flip through them all?
Let's see. Oh, I see what I'm sorry, I see what you're asking now. I'll make it bigger, I promise. In a minute, when I get there.
What are you,
Okay, oh, too big. Okay.
page 11?
Yep.
Can we see what it would look like leaving the millage where it's at versus?
Yeah, so what you have in front of you is leaving the millage where it's at 0.37 mils. So if you increase it to 7174, it's essentially almost doubling it. A little bit less than double.
Okay, so at the end of this fiscal year, what is anticipated to be left in the account?
Yeah, so at the end of fiscal year 25, we're projecting that they'll have an ending fund balance of $303,000.
And that would roll into the 25, 26?
Yes, yes.
$305 to go in. And that is, I'm assuming that's some residual from when it was still at the full.
Yes, yes.
Right, and
After
so at
doing
the
the
end of
roads and
next year,
purchasing the
we're
tractor
proposing.
and everything else, that's what's left over.
So looking at 133 left, estimated to be
Yes,
left at the
after
end of
next year's
year.
budget, if they purchase the skid steer with the backhoe attachment, as well as that like 35,000 we have in there for just a placeholder for roads, we could take that out, if needed. That's what that use of fund balance is, that 169,000 decrease, is for those two
So
items.
that's with the purchase of the skid steer.
Yes,
So I think, we got an email from the cemetery board saying that there was no need and they didn't want to purchase a skid steer.
so I think what came out of the cemetery board meeting after you probably received that email is that the thought was they wouldn't purchase a skid steer because there'd be no plots. But if we're gonna expand, then you will probably need
But I
it.
think that's the reason, and I'm not you.
That's what I
think
remember
that's the
the
reason
conversation to be.
that we purchased the tractor that we purchased, and the way Tim from the DPW spec'd that one out is it had the room to have the attachments and stuff put onto it to do what potentially would need to be done. So that's why that purchase was made. So I don't know why we would purchase a skid steer, even after, they're saying we don't need one.
I don't know, Debbie, Jamie?
Yeah, let you guys speak to that.
So, yeah, we talked about it, so it's more maneuverable. It fits better in tighter spaces.
So do we need the tractor?
Well, what I would do is I would offset that with, I would sell the tractor. But ultimately, in the end, we also talked about, could you get a skid steer? Sure, but at least leave that as a placeholder. If they don't end up getting the skid steer, then since it's not technically separated by funds, it's just its own general fund, it could sit in there, and then if they don't end up purchasing that and say we do just end up with a tractor, then they can utilize that fund and shift it around how they see fit. Because there is going to be, again, regardless of where we end up on that retention pond, there's gonna be a lot of engineering regardless attached to that retention pond. That may end up just being part of that fund that's sitting there, that if they decide to go with the skid steer, okay, it's there. If not, they can divert it into another project.
What was the cost of the skid steer again? Because I don't have that in front of me too.
130,000 was the estimate.
Yeah, that's with a bucket and a backhoe attachment.
Which, is that in the capital outlay?
Yes, that's in the capital outlay line, yes.
And the tractor that we already have all the attachments for, correct?
No.
No, we would need to buy some, but not nowhere near 130,000. So I guess I just have a concern with charging residents more for a maybe, an F, when we've got 130 for a skid steer, and we're gonna end up with 130 left in that fund at the end of the year. Maybe we have to make a small adjustment, but I mean, that's 260 on an estimated $200-some-thousand project.
I mean, I know.
Yeah, I respect it, but without having exact numbers and expenses and everything, and I feel like we were here, and it's not to cut anyone, at the same point last year where it was a last-minute decision, because we didn't have everything in front of us, we didn't have numbers, we didn't have everything to base the decision on, so that's why we brought it down, was because there was nothing set in stone that was gonna happen, for sure. And, I mean, just keep going, what if, or possibly we can hold it to just charge more for that when there's obvious other needs within the village that could probably use some funding also, so I don't know.
But you
I mean,
can't use cemetery millage. The
I
only
understand- I
millage you
understand
have
that. That's what I'm
available
saying.
is the cemetery
If I'm gonna charge
millage.
residents more somewhere, it's not gonna be for a what if.
Right, but you can't charge residents more anywhere else.
I think it just means
That's the-
offsetting
yeah.
and moving that millage here so this millage can go there, it equals
Yes.
out.
But it can't though, because
No.
general fund's already at the max.
Would you, earlier, the other day when you were like, but the good news is.
Oh, with the rubbish fund? Yes,
Yes.
but that's going down regardless.
Right, and so
Yeah.
that if they could, yeah,
Okay.
do you understand?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but it's restricted money, so.
I understand that. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there's plenty of different areas that money is needed.
And I know with the skid steer, you can maneuverability wise, because I've driven there, it is nice, you know, you can,
Yeah.
but you can still get the same thing done with a tractor.
Yeah.
You just position yourself the right
Yeah.
way.
The only thing with the tractor versus the skid steer, because we were looking at all this, was the tractor is, the idea behind both of them is sustainability or self-sustainable practices, where they're not necessarily having to bring in DPW. The tractor does not have the PSI for the backhoe, that as soon as that ground starts to get a little bit frozen, they're not gonna be able to dig at all. They're not gonna be able to bust through any of the frost layers, which that's something to consider. And again, it's, you know, it was something we had thought about, that, okay, now Mitchell is a little bit more self-sustaining over there, but by no means does that mean it has to be put into that. If it ultimately is decided to move on from that, it's kind of just a placeholder for that money until we decide how things go. And again, like, I get the argument of, and I think we said this last time, you know, we need to have hard numbers, but this is an operating budget. Operating budgets are based on assumptions. We're not talking about project budgets. And I think that's getting lost in translation, because there's a number of unforeseeables here. What is engineering ultimately going to cost? The cost of goods is going up by the day right now for just about anything, doesn't matter what you're choosing. And that's why these assumptions are important to base everything off of, because we don't know. And if you blow your budget, it's not going to be good.
Okay, Danielle, so say it again. This is set up with the full millage where we are, where.
No, what you
This
have in
is
front of you is half the
our
millage.
current millage.
Yes, the current .37 mils.
What would it be? You said about doubled.
Yeah, about, a little bit less than double. Because you've increased from .37 to .7174.
Is there a middle ground?
I would say, what if we just
You
do like
could.
5 or something, not all the way?
I still don't. I
How
still
much are we
question the
trying
skid steer,
to?
but that's-
And again, we don't have to get the skid steer, but we also, there's discussions about if there's other land that possibly could be acquired for.
To me, the equipment is a
But
secondary.
that wouldn't come out of the cemetery.
If
fund,
we're
though.
saying we want plots and we want to have availability, we need money available to purchase or improve. The equipment, we have equipment currently.
Can the cemetery purchase land?
No.
I don't think the
They
cemetery.
can, well, the village can purchase, the cemetery could reimburse. That's the thought process with that.
But they can improve.
So if so if we, say we bought 500,000 and they had 500,000, they could then,
That capital
Essentially,
outlay
we're-
expense would show up in the cemetery
Yeah.
fund.
we're essentially just a pass-through at that point.
So can you play with it currently, putting us at,
So at 0.37, you bring in about $86,000. So if you did like 0.45, you bring in 105.
Additional,
No,
Total.
so, right, total.
okay.
If
And we
you
have
do-
300,000 there now. Or we will theoretically.
At the end of the year, at June 30th, yes, with projecting you
303.
have about 300,000.
Start with 303, you don't purchase it back, or skidster for 130.
Mhm.
Then,
And they have their 200 to do what they need to do,
yeah.
with
So,
100 to roll over.
yeah, but assuming it's at 200.
Right,
so max would give you roughly 80,000.
180, 167,000.
Compared to 88?
Compared to
So
like
about-
86, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
So 160 is
compared
even
to,
better.
so about 80,000 more.
yeah,
If
almost double.
that's maxing it out.
Yeah. And this is assuming a no rollback. That's what I've been told by the county, or by the townships. I have not gotten the official word from the county. So that's still kind of a question out there, but everyone seems to think that there's no rollback on Romeo this year.
I don't know how comfortable I feel setting any of our mills until we hear that answer.
Yeah. Last year we got it May 1st.
Okay.
They usually release it the first week of May,
Okay.
so. Yeah, obviously, if we don't get something from the county, then we can't do the May meeting, but every year they've released it the first week of May, so.
Going from where it's currently set to max, what does that do to the average house value for tax base?
I don't think I have that on here. I have to see. I do have that in my files, though, I think with the Headley, if you want to give me a second to look that up. Nope, it's not in that folder. I just need to know what the average taxpayer.
Ms. Martone, do you have the estimates with you for the survey and things that you said?
Do you want me to bring it up to you?
Yeah, can I peek at it, please?
These were estimates that I got. The only thing that I don't have an estimate for was those pins, which we would need 720.
Those weren't much, right? When we looked at buying those,
Yeah.
for the last one, I don't think those were
I think.
like
yeah.
$1,000 for that whole
What I want.
area. Yeah.
Oh, and the fence, I put 19 per foot. If you figured out the math, 16,000.
Can I write that on here?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, average taxable value of a residential is 92,761. So,
Hey, Shelley, on there I also listed a couple.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
On there I listed a couple of things that we kind of like are projecting to, hope to accomplish. So, one of them is just a small thing in comparison, but those are our projected projects. As well as the expansion.
Okay.
We did identify a larger portion is starting to need repair work. A lot of the monuments and stones that have fallen, knocked, whatever you want to call it, over or disintegrated. So the perpetuality of that as well is one of the items that I think needs to be addressed as we start to move forward, not just in the expansion, but in the upkeep of what we have currently.
Have we looked at grant funding for that? I think Ray I think they got some grant funding for their one off 32 that I remember it was a couple summers ago, stopped and talked to the company and they were running on grant funding. They spent weeks there cleaning up and redoing quite a bit of that type of work for the historic.
This is more like replacing foundations that are cracked or, sink.
Yeah, I think they did a lot of that
Yeah.
with
So
that
it's a
funding,
big job in itself.
and we're Oh, because we pour the foundations, don't we? We do currently.
We contract.
Yes, but we take responsibility of them. I don't know if we always historically did, but are we liable for those?
We are not a perpetual care
Like personal opinion, or do you want the facts?
cemetery. Reading over the things, it is supposed to be the family's responsibility. We now have a waiver in place that if you need any kind of repair work, you are not holding us liable for any monuments, anything. But the problem that exists though too, because like Mr. Bramble stated, we have a number of old ones that are falling over. There's no families attached to that, so
I would
then
like to
now
know-
it's incumbent on us to take care of it.
I'd like to
so.
know in 200 years, should
Yeah.
my headstone be there and no one's here, that the village still respects that. I don't know how you draw lines on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Danielle, what?
So-
Recycle program?
So,
That was bad.
to answer your question, so the average tax bill value based on 2024 values of a house, so just a residential property, in Romeo is about $92,000. So at the .37 mils, the cemetery portion of that person's tax bill is $34. If you went up to the max mills, it would be about $66, so a increase of $32 per resident.
32 per 100,000 roughly.
Yep.
About exactly where we were last year when we rolled it back.
So when I look at the list, because are you foreseeing everything on this list being done in 1 year?
Well, it would be fantastic, but, you know, obviously there's gonna have to be some steps taken. But, I don't see why it couldn't be done within a year if we had the funds to do it.
At least to our current property that we own. I
Yeah.
mean, not that we
Yeah,
don't,
to the
but the
13th.
one we
I'm
know
not
for
talking
sure,
about the
yes.
14th anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just that 13th edition.
And the road work, is that the asphalt matching what you have already?
That would be, yeah, because first it would have to be laid out, and then the so that's just kind of a roundabout number to, obviously some of that is gonna fall into engineering, and so, when I called the paving company, I said, okay, I don't even know how we would access it at this point, whether it would come off Walter sheets or attached, but that was just, she said, put it at about 100,000, that would probably cover your asphalt costs and your layout, it's obviously gonna have to be graded, and so, that was just, these are all just kind of roundabout figures, because I didn't want anybody to think that I was collecting bids, so.
Okay.
Can we ponder on this and
Is
come
there
back
any
to
more
it?
discussion, or would you like to see another number?
Does the cemetery have the ability to have, in some way, shape, or form, some of their funds in an account that earns them money?
They already do. They're fully invested in Michigan Class and Robinson Capital, just like the general fund.
So the 130,000 for the skid steer is sitting in that fund?
Yeah,
earning-
yeah. That money is, it's sitting in cash, waiting to be spent if the board decides to approve it.
Yep, we have that for basically every fund.
Every fund in the village, is invested.
Okay. Okay, sounds like we need to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, kicked out.
Thank
Do
you.
want to-
You're done.
I guess.
Do you want to go back to the top?
Sure.
To the beginning?
Sure, if I can get back into my computer here. Okay. So back up to the general fund. So the only changes that came out of the two meetings, I believe, were last meeting where it was asked to see what the budget would look like if we removed the salaries for the board, the planning commission, and the ZBA. So those are the yellow highlights on your sheet. So the difference in doing that is about $40,000 savings
Between all the boards.
between all the boards.
If we do what?
I'm sorry?
We save $40,000 if we do what?
Eliminate the pay for the board of, which was suggested, the board of trustees, the planning commission, and the ZBA.
33,173.
Mhm.
What did you say it was, 33,173?
That's on the next page, I think.
Oh.
That would be next year's proposed savings.
So I'm sorry, is that shown with it in or with it out right
With it
now?
out. So the very far right column is with it out. So the second to last column is what you saw last week, and then the next column is draft one, which removes those salaries as requested, just to see what it would look like.
That's why it's empty.
Yeah.
I guess I would recommend against that.
Okay.
I think we all work pretty hard at this stuff, and to just give it away, accept no compensation is, I don't think is right. Over the last 25 to 30 years, there's only been one salary increase in 25 to 30 years. One. And it's not like we're making big bucks here. We're making $200.
I agree, but looking at all options and all avenues.
I'd like to see it out, personally. I mean, I know we can't rob Peter to pay Paul, but $40,000 could go a long way for police department, other, permanent office staff, a grant writer. I mean, we can make it up and reevaluate for next budget, but I mean, that's a lot of money to save.
We've got 5 police cars right now. Do we need a 6th? I mean, you guys just approved that.
It's a separate conversation.
I mean, I understand, but you're talking about saving money.
Well, to be fair, if we're doing apples to apples, the ones that we're purchasing are replacing 2 others that are being retired. So it's not like we're getting squad cars 6 and 7. We're just replacing 2 that are at their end of life.
And what are we doing with the ones at end of life? Are we selling them, or?
I think they're
It's a
gonna be sold.
conversation to be had.
Freeze the budget.
We don't have a need for them, or do we have a need for them? That's a conversation.
No?
So I guess, were there any other changes that you had or would like to see now that you've had this for a couple weeks? That you've thought of, brought up?
In the whole,
Yeah,
gotcha.
because I can
No,
go
you've
ahead
had-
and
you've
plunk
had
it
the
in
budget
and you can
for-
see the effect.
Couple weeks. She's saying everything else.
Oh, we saw those.
The tree board is now more involved with arranging tree repairs or tree takedowns, and has asked if they could have some of those funds allocated to them so that the invoices can come to them. They feel comfortable working with the vendors and turning the invoices in and then coding it to that account. So wherever it is in here that we have the tree money, which I think,
Yeah, it's about $6,500 for tree purchase and then contracted services of $5,300.
Yeah, they've never really exceeded their 10 grand. However, they will need, moving into this grant and putting it into the software, there's a need, if we're gonna keep the software, of $3,500 a year. Renewal fee.
they generally, I mean, not always, but a lot of the trees they can get from Macomb Green, so
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily have to be there, but if we could move some into it for them to do what they need to do.
So I guess what would the number be, I guess?
Right, but without the assessment, we don't know what the need is. It's similar
Okay.
to what the discussion we just had is.
Okay.
We know there's a need. We don't know what it quite is yet. It's a difference of the money sitting in the general fund or sitting in the tree board's fund.
We can just amend the
there.
budget when the time comes.
Okay. Pardon me, Nolan?
We can just amend the budget when the time comes and we get a clearer picture of what that number is. It's still gonna be captured in the general fund,
Mhm.
the same amount of money.
It is, but they've had mistakes recently where bills have come into Village Hall and got paid out of the tree fund.
No,
And-
there's not been mistakes. The tree board, when they incur costs, it comes out of the tree board's funds. That's why they have that money.
I'm sorry, Megan, I can't hear you.
The tree board has money, and when the tree board incurs costs and chooses to spend that money, it gets pulled out of their account.
So taking trees down comes out of the tree board budget?
When they make that call, yes.
Right, so that's why I'm asking to have more money moved to their budget. Because if they're making that call, they want to be able to follow through on their whole process.
Which I support, but we don't know what that need is.
We don't know
until
what
this
any of these
assessment
needs
gets
are.
done.
We're giving people money left and right. So what's the difference?
The difference is you at least have a general number. There, until this assessment is done, we don't know what the need is.
We could say that about the cemetery as well. Until she gets her actual bids instead of her guesstimates, we don't know what that is
No, we at least
either.
have that.
These are her guesstimates.
Educated.
Could you pass that down, Shelley? Thank you.
So I don't understand why we would treat one board differently than the other.
The tree board is currently going through the assessment. It started today. We don't know what the need is yet.
We
The
don't know
money
what
is there.
The cemetery needs either. But we're willing to put money there to sit just in case.
No, I see it completely different. But to Danielle's ask, what would the number be?
Approximately 40,000. Because they're thinking if it's a few thousand a tree. And that's a lot less than what's generally allocated.
Don't we,
I agree with Matt, leave her money alone. He and I worked when used to be paid shit, excuse my stuff.
Yep. Now you're gonna be asking the village president to work for free? You don't put enough hours in?
There we go.
Board meetings.
There we go.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah.
They don't get paid for board meetings either way.
What's
Good
that?
call, man, good call.
Well, these two don't get paid for board meetings either
I do.
way.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
She does.
I don't.
I thought, oh no, Jamie does.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
the clerk is rolled into their salary as their duties, but
Okay.
the president does get extra stipend for meetings,
Yeah.
that, yes, I would.
I'd vote to freeze the entire
Right
budget for 25, 26.
What'd you say, Zach?
I said I'd vote to freeze the entire budget for 25, 26, and let's just work from there.
Why?
Because there's a lot of spaces that aren't going to use the funds, so where we can actually shift them around. For instance,
Give us some examples.
give you some examples.
Yeah.
I think the one with the police cars. Fix them up. There's no need to buy a brand new car. Have 6, and then you're gonna get rid of 2. We got less than 5,000 people here, 5 miles, 5 square miles of village property. And we keep going through cars every 3 years, 4 years.
But why would that necessitate freezing the entire village budget?
Because you guys amended an extra $100, what was it? Some odd dollars for a brand new Tahoe. Is that what I understand? A couple meetings ago? You amended the budget for it?
And so when there's an emergency at your home and the
I mean,
vehicle
you
doesn't
asked
work to
about
get the
for
police
money.
there, I feel that
We can fix what we
spending
got.
the money,
It's just like the
now-
steer. We don't need that thing either.
Well, I think it's also a matter of throwing good money after bad. Is it?
That's just my
does it-
thought, my view,
I
and that's
get
where my
it.
vote's gonna go.
I
I'm not
get it.
gonna vote for any.
But can I finish my statement,
Finish all
sir?
you want, I just.
I'm saying at a certain point, it becomes cost prohibitive to maintain something rather than buying new.
At a certain
You're-
point, we gotta address the $1.5 million deficit.
And again, we addressed that last meeting. It's not 1.5.
yeah, and I don't think that's by burying your head in the sand and
It's-
saying freeze the budget.
It's essentially what we're doing. The argument right now is keeping the 1979 Pinto So you don't have to buy a new car, so you
we got
don't,
a
because you
79
don't,
Pinto?
because you don't want a new
Just
car
use an example.
payment. No, I'm using an example, it's
Ah.
called an anecdote.
Well, I got a Pinto.
And,
I'd like to have it
no,
today.
I didn't say you did.
No, I
but-
said I'd like to have it.
I mean, okay, but at a certain point, the cost of upkeep far outweighs the cost that you're gonna pay for that new vehicle.
I do my upkeep on my work vehicles every freaking day.
Okay, but does your work vehicle need to go
And it
possibly
goes- it
save
goes
a
farther
life?
than our village vehicles.
Does it need to go address an emergency situation?
Sure do. Every day I get to go to work. Emergency. So I can pay my taxes.
I should just talk to a wall at this point.
Yeah. That's where my vote's going. Just to let you know.
I'm glad you were letting us know. Okay, any other suggestions? That was your example, do you have more?
I'm done.
So we haven't seen the DDA budget yet, unless I'm missing something, but when you were on, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, didn't the DDA used to pay back to the village somewhere around 80 to 100,000 a year for basically the maintenance, upkeep, sign hanging and different things like that, and we haven't seen that in what, 4 or 5 years?
No, Christine Malzahn, would say did away with that, with the DDA?
There was a reason for that.
Yeah.
collection.
There was-
It
there was
was-
a lawsuit.
It wasn't a every year annual thing, it was
No.
a time period.
It
Where
was
they were
yearly.
paying back the village.
It was a
If,
consent.
if I could speak, because I know about this, I just looked into
And when
it.
that specific amount of money was paid back, it ended then.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details on it.
Yeah, it's when the DDA sued the village.
Yeah, there was a consent judgment, but they fulfilled that.
Yeah.
Yes, they
So,
fulfilled that.
Right, and
so-
then-
I understand that was the purpose then, but, I mean, if the funds are there, why is that not?
Because
been-
it's a pass-through, for one thing.
I
Because that
understand,
is
but-
their money.
I understand,
Their
but
money.
to bring it back to the DDA for maintenance and upkeep of the DDA, that
Whether
makes
the
sense.
DDA exists or not, that is responsibility of the village. The village would be doing it no matter what.
And the TIFA money, since you have a TIFA district, has a specific plan that lays out what they use the money for. I believe that's in their master plan that was updated in like 2022 or 3. So that kind of mandates what that TIFA capture money can be spent on. So that might be part of the why they are keeping the TIFA money, because it's under their master plan of how that money will be spent.
Seems like,
And I believe that the DDA budget in this is not specific, it's just showing us a pass-through. DDA usually supplies us a specific
yeah, they will.
budget on their
later.
own.
Yes, and they will be getting it to us. They're working on it.
I just don't see why that couldn't continue. I don't know why it couldn't continue to money coming from, money collected for the DDA to be spent in the DDA for maintenance and upkeep. It makes complete sense.
It is, but we get to dictate how our budget is paid. This board does not dictate the DDA budget.
Well, we do get to authorize it.
Absolutely. And you can choose not to, and then the board can choose to adjust or not adjust. But to say from this table that you're gonna dictate that we have to pay back to the village to cover your shortcomings is insane.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with the audience, but I would disagree that it's parking lots and sidewalks that are used by businesses to make money. And if we put it back onto the residents,
And we've offered to take control of those properties and manage them.
just right now, that's the first I've heard of
No, I had a
it.
conversation with board members as well.
First official, we just heard that, and I really don't wanna argue back and forth here.
But you allow other boards to speak to you.
This
But
is
when
what a
it's-
budget.
Yeah, but if you wanna
meeting
come up
should
and
be
speak,
discussion.
yeah, that's fine,
I'd be
but.
happy to.
And to your point, this is a budget meeting. We need to have these hard discussions. This
And
is
and
the
that's fine, I'm
appropriate
not
time.
saying no, I just don't wanna feel like I'm arguing.
So what's the question?
Can we start with a little bit of background? Why originally were we getting $80,000 roughly back?
So at some point, the DDA sued the village. Jamie's got more information on the practicalities of why, right? going in the weeds, we don't really need all that. The consent judgment was based that the DDA then had to pay the village back a certain amount of funds. It was spread out, I think, over 10
Pay
years.
it all at one time. So
It was 5 or 10 years,
Yes.
something like that.
And the debt was paid.
It was upwards of,
Yeah, that was
basically,
fulfilled.
the
I think
DDA kept
21.
$11,500. Whatever else came in was sent to the village. It was around 80 to 100 somewhere a year that came back, and that was ear noted for maintenance, upkeep, sidewalks, parking lots, the hanging of the banners for the DPW does for all that. And that's what it was earmarked for.
And they still
now
pay for that.
that's.
Well, and just to,
Up to that amount?
They are billed for the
so
banners.
to respond to that, once you pay off your judgment, you can't keep going after someone for more, right? So if I sue my
And that's what
neighbor,
I'm saying, besides of that judgment.
but that's the judgment you're talking about. So to say, why can't they keep doing that? Because we paid our debt, or whoever was on the board at the time paid that debt. For this board now to claim that we're gonna continue to
improve the DDA?
No, to say that the DDA, the last thing this board's ever tried to do is improve the DDA. But for you now to say that you've paid your debt and we're gonna continue to bill you more debt is ridiculous. The DDA pays, you said, why can't we continue to pay you like we did before? Before was a consent judgment, we paid our debt to you, done. Going forward, we pay for our banners to be hung, we pay for everything downtown. Like I have said, you wanna deed your property over to us because you can't maintain it, that's a discussion that we can have. But to say we'll lease it to you for $1 and you take care of our property because we can't manage our own funds is ridiculous. I can't imagine anyone would do that in any situation. When Shelley and I spoke, if my neighbor can't take care of his yard, I'm not gonna go pay for his lawn to be cut. And that's essentially what you're asking us to do. We can't take care of our property, so let's have the DDA do it. Now, if that's the way you wanna go, then the DDA takes ownership, and now it's our property to manage how we choose to manage it. But for this board to dictate how the DDA puts its budget together and spends it is not the way the law is written. So I don't understand where this board feels that they have that authority to dictate our budget.
It was an ask, right? Simple ask that why can't that continue, right? To cost share and stuff like that.
We've budgeted
Right?
money for
And
cost sharing.
If we're gonna talk about the past and the history and we wanna keep throwing allegations.
You brought it up.
I know, but we can go back to when the DDA wanted to purchase the lot behind FAMS and defaulted, and the village bailed them out.
Okay,
Right?
but you
So-
brought it up.
I know, but I'm saying, so we can go back and we can talk about a lot of things. I'm talking about the current.
Right.
Right? A lot of things happened in the past, before this board too, that got us to where we're at today, right?
But
And I'm asking, is the DDA willing to share in the expense of expenses that are in the DDA for their business?
Well, that's not what you originally asked.
I asked why.
You said, why can't we continue to give you?
Couldn't continue, yes.
You said, why can't the DDA continue to give you $80,000 to $110,000 a year? That was what you said.
Yes.
So now if you're asking, is there gonna be a partnership? Hate to remind everybody of the elephant in the room, but we had a partnership that lasted 30 days with you. And y'all pulled the plug on it without giving it any concerned respect to any of the time, effort, and money the DDA has put in. If you are now saying we want to go back to the table with the DDA and talk about partnering for parking, wow, the arrogance and the manipulation of this board is unbelievable. But I'd be happy to bring it to the board and see if they would love to partner with this group of people again. Maybe it'll last longer than 30 days this time. I'll put it on our agenda. Any other questions? Thank you.
That's where I was at.
So I know you guys nobody seems to like this idea, but I'd still like to know what it would cost to contract our police to the Macomb County Sheriff's Department for 365 days a year, 24/7. What are we paying, 1.9 million right now for police?
I can provide you the studies that
You're looking at 1 to 1.2. If you're looking at police and dispatch, we're looking 1.4 to 1.5.
and that's initially until the contract ramps.
Would that include the dispatch also?
The second number was, but it went.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Dispatch is about 300 to 400
It's 369 in the budget.
On top of the police.
Or dispatcher?
Yes.
And that is the
Just a
initial
thought.
cost.
Yeah, so they write their contracts for 10 years, and it's usually, it's like an ARM mortgage, so you know what you're gonna pay your first 3 years. And almost invariably, every single time, the fourth year, you get
We've lived this with a
ratcheted
fire
up.
contract. I don't see it being any different.
And
We
again,
could- We could defer it to a different council years from now, and
Just throwing it out there, just for thought.
we just had a fire contract raised by hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1 year. This is why you have this fact sheet in
Yep,
your
I saw
packet.
that. That was a good, that was
I mean,
a
it's
potentially good idea.
It's an appropriate ask, Nathan. It's a question to be had right now. This is where we're at. I don't see it as an option. I see that as actually costing us more in the long run.
yeah, again, you save money in the interim, but when your contract finally doubles, it's gonna cost you at least where you're at currently in the contract to reinstate.
And there's no coming back.
Yeah,
You've
and-
already sold all your equipment. It's like where we're at with the fire. There is, to come back from that,
And Macomb's contracts are mirrored, well, they're essentially just Oakland's contract. That's what why reinvent the wheel? And right now, there is a class action movement of communities in Oakland trying to sue Oakland, like I said. Wixom and South Lyons saw their police rates go up 13.8 2 years ago and last year, and this year it's gonna be like 14.9, and they're dropping deputies, so they're losing coverage, paying more. And that seems to be the MO across the board. And then you talk about, like I said, you're still gonna pay in your insurance. Your insurance is gonna go up if your response time goes down and it changes our rating, insurance rating as a community. We're gonna pay way more than we currently pay
And
just
don't
on the back end.
Don't expect to call an officer when someone's parked in front of your driveway or you have a ordinance violation. There's not going to be, they're not gonna be coming enforcing street parking. They're gonna come when you call for an absolute emergency. And then again, any of the overtime or extra that we would need on our events, I just don't see it paying off.
Good question, Mark. Good question.
Something I did look at in the, since our last meeting, is sidewalks. Dug into the archives back in about 92 or so. The downtown sidewalks were done, and it was done as a special assessment district to the businesses. I'll tell you, they weren't happy about it. There's a lot of history there, but that's how that got done at that time.
That's where all the old park benches came from.
And then there was the bricks were redone and reset, so there are other options.
So, what I'm hearing is, do we want to see the board commission, planning commission, ZBA put back into the budget or left out?
I'd like to see it put back in.
Second.
Me too.
We're not making motions.
We're not voting, it's
Oh,
just, I'll
all
make
right.
the changes and re-present it to
Totally
you,
agree.
I'm asking.
I think $40,000 is significant, and I'd be willing to go without it for a year.
Me too.
I'm indifferent, doesn't matter.
I think, yes, we do work, and it is quantified with the money, but given where we're at,
Nothing personal to our
I'm willing to-
excellent job with the accountant over here, but let's look at hiring a part-time accountant, retired. Let's shave that budget right there. I mean, these guys do a great job, but obviously, we can't afford them.
I mean, do you, I would bounce it back to you, sir.
$40,000 trying to shave from here, and I mean, there's big ticket items just sitting there.
I would bounce it back to you, sir. Do you know the scope?
Just putting it out there.
I know, and I'm asking you, do you know the scope of work that they do? Because yes, the clerk oversees some aspects too, but that is not a part-time job by any stretch of the imagination.
Hire a retired part-time.
Part-time, but that is not a part-time job.
Well, we used to employ a person here year.
I know, and
Actually did a great job for us, and it kept our budget.
And we
Now
did-
we're
Sir,
spoiled.
we are
These
massively
guys are
behind.
great.
And we
I
did
think
single-year
we
budgets.
can't afford them.
Sir, we are massively behind the eight ball.
No shit.
And we did single-year budgets, and we reacted. There is a lot that goes into planning and being actually
You're looking to
able to
save
look
40 grand here,
forward.
and let's hire somebody for about 65. I mean,
And
these
we are
guys
still
can
gonna-
do the audit at the end of the year. That's
You're not gonna
fantastic.
you're not gonna get anyone for 65. It's just not gonna happen.
And you get someone at 65 and that 1.5 bare minimum deficit is going to grow exponentially year over year. And the thing that I warned in September that the accountants verified in January is going to be rapidly moved up. You were talking about, that is the very literal embodiment of the phrase, good money after bad. You get what you pay for, and they produce in spades.
I mean, if you wanna go out to bid and you wanna put an RFP out and see
Jamie,
what we can do,
I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm on board with that, but to go without professional services in that area, or even to knock it down to part-time, is not doing due diligence to the village.
You just said 1.5 again. About 15 minutes ago, you said it's not 1.5.
Oh, no, I said it's the 1.5 that they said is the assumption, and it showed in that meeting that even at 1.5, in year 5 and 6, we are still in bad shape. And I said the last meeting, we're probably in the tune of around 4 to 5 million, and to get everything done and insulate us. That's truly where we're at, and we don't have the tax mechanisms to do that, which, you know, to me, when we talk about creative financing, we gotta look at grant funding. We gotta reach out to every single rep. You know, when I go back through the meeting minutes of all the years, the trustees used to meet with congressmen and women and senators and state leadership and county leadership and banks and stuff. And that's what it takes at this point, is everybody kind of working together. We need a collaborative effort at the village level, especially at the leadership level. We need to all collaborate to fix this issue. Granted, it wasn't created by anybody here, but this board can either fix or exacerbate the issue. And right now, when we talk about getting rid of a professional service, that is going to exacerbate the issue. You guys are elected to make tough decisions, and having the title behind your name of trustee gains you access. I can give you guys a Rolodex right now of people that I know personally that I am trying to talk to, and if we have a force multiplication effort by this board hounding them, there is money that can help us. But it's going to take serious effort by everybody here to get that money so we dig out of this hole. And calling a senator as Shelley Rosso resident, they might listen to you. Calling a senator as Shelley Rosso trustee of the Village of Romeo and explaining exactly where we're at, they will listen. They will pick up the phone because they respect the title and not necessarily the name. And that's where we're at now. We need to start doing these things. Otherwise, Megan and I just met with Mike Duggan. He's running for governor. I'm reaching out to the other gubernatorial candidates to get them to the village to have a town hall, because they need to understand where we're at as a village, that we are slowly dying. And we're not unique. Villages are in the state are slowly dying because of our ability to tax and where we're at. We're not townships, we're not cities. But they need to understand the unique issues that exist within the village, and the only way that happens is by gaining access. And your title gains you a lot of access, and we need to start utilizing it.
Danielle? Yes. The 4.5 or so million that, you know, does that include things like the sidewalks downtown?
So the sidewalks downtown, that would be in the municipal street fund?
Right, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is this 4.5 or whatever it is that we're gonna be in the hole with. are you using numbers like those sidewalks and the parking lot at DPW?
Yes,
and-
yeah,
and-
it's to
okay.
do the
So-
necessary capital of the village that.
Okay, so let's pretend like, and don't take it out of context, ladies over there, Andrea and Danielle, do not.
I know, I think you're what you said.
Oh, okay, well,
Carry on.
yeah.
Please.
So if we say, okay, we have these things that need to be done, we have these improvements that need to be done. I think people are getting the impression that we're gonna be in the hole just as an operating village. Like, we are gonna be in the hole just trying to survive day to day. I don't think people have the information that it's this parking lot, and it's this parking lot for the DPW, and it's the sidewalks downtown. So is there a way to somehow put those capital wants and needs into a number and label it, so when we're talking, we know that, yes, the village is survivable, but yes, we have this in infrastructure that needs to get done.
Yeah, it's right here.
Does that make sense?
What page is that?
So this is on the forecast.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, I think that was provided January 30th as well. They had
Within the graphs on that as well.
So.
No, it's not here. It's in the other one.
So I think the only one that needs to be fixed on here is this one here. We had this issue last time. There we go. So without redoing parking lots, because that was the big discussion, and without having general fund subsidize at all to the street projects, so the $6 million that's hanging out there to redo the southwest quadrant, the general fund is fine. However, you're leaving all of those streets undone, and you're leaving all of the parking lots undone.
Because we have to do the projects at wastewater, we have to do the projects for water. They're the needs, it's not a want,
Because
they're a need.
the thought was, well, since, at least this is what I was told, the thought was, well, since we ran out of bond money, the general fund will just pay for the streets. It's not fiscally possible, you'll put yourself in a deficit.
Okay.
So we're coming kind of back to that conversation in January of, if we want to redo the streets, we need to find an additional revenue source, either bond again, do a special assessment for police to free up that money in the general fund to give to the street project, or grants. That's the conversation.
So being someone who lives in the southwest quadrant, my thoughts are, if we have to wait a few years, we have to wait a few years. I mean.
Well, but even waiting a few years, it's $6 million. You only have, at the end of 2030, $5 million in the general fund.
In other words, if we don't have the means to pay for it, then until we get some grants or whatever, would you just wait?
But again, to Danielle's, it's $6 million, but that's today. If you wait 3-4 years, I mean, again, when we were, last meeting when we were talking about, I made the cardinal sin of when I was trying to put a ballpark for tech, for instance. I said, let's go $2,500 to $3,000 a computer. Not realizing that we were on the doorstep of tariffs, and the tech, just for computers, you're talking about $4,000 to $5,000 now, because they've jumped up 46%. They're gonna do another 15% next month is projected. Anybody that I've talked to about purchasing the computers, they said, if you cannot guarantee you're going to buy it in 3 weeks, we will not hold this price because it's going to jump up. And after 3 weeks, we're automatically going to say 15% more. And that's, if you have a supply chain issue in any way, shape, or form, that $6 million gets blown out of the water very quickly. I mean, this is a very small instance, right? Like computers. When you're talking about a 15% jump at $6 million, that's
which is why we messed up when I was on this board. We were talking about doing it, but it kept getting shot down. A number of years ago, it would have been a lot cheaper.
Right.
So-
Right.
But I think your point is, if we don't have the money,
Yeah.
somebody's gotta give.
Yeah. Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, And-
Whether it's gonna be 6 million or 9 million or whatever it's gonna be, we don't have the money.
Right.
Do it.
Which is why we have to find it, like I was saying.
Well, we
meet
can
that.
find it, but until then, maybe
Until
we should
then.
take it out of the budget.
Yeah.
And it's currently not in the budget. The street project is not in the municipal street budget because you'd budget a deficit because you don't have a revenue source to pay for it.
Well, so here's the other thought. The residents approved that initial bond, although it wasn't written properly, is my understanding, which is why we don't have the balance of the funds. So why can't we say to the residents, it wasn't written properly, you did approve it, we need to now, if you want it done, we now need to go back and have you reapprove it.
The
So
last
we-
time the roads were done, there was 2 bonds. They did an initial bond the first year, spent the money, and they came back in the next year and asked for another bond, and it did pass. I would think that if the people want the roads done, they're gonna pass another bond.
I mean, I'm happy with the fact that having done half the town last year, I mean, we did have a lot of other expenses, but we did fix a lot of stuff, the sewers, a lot of curbs they needed to be replaced, you know, it costed more money, so we got it done.
Right, we stretched that road, we stretched that bond money as far as we could, and all of those extra things, made sure that it didn't come out of the bond money if it didn't have to. We pulled it out of sewer, or a street, or anything else that we could to extend it, the sidewalks and such. We pulled out of all the other budgets to extend that road millage money, or the road bond money as far as possible.
I think it was good too, we got a lot done.
I agree.
I mean, the roads are the second largest thing that I hear when I walk around,
Right.
aside from
I guess
cemetery.
if we had to make a suggestion, bonding for some of it and covering some of it, but we need to be able to look at that and plan it now and step that forward and take the time to put it on a ballot. We know what the almost 5 million looks like on our taxes. You ask for a similar amount, you ask for half, and then we figure out, we go, okay, to Nathan's point, in 3 years, we will have X amount from our current taxes, and then we have a bond. And so then we don't ask for it till that time, however we do it. But we have to have a plan.
Why are you against the special assessment for the fire and police?
No, I think that's one of the options also.
I don't think she's against it.
Oh, I thought she said she was, that it would, that she said, okay.
No, I think it's another option. I think there's security, the Headley rollback didn't pass. I feel like it was too ambiguous over time that you could spend the general fund money on. Either doing a bond for the roads, it can only be spent on the roads, it has to be, and then it falls off within that time frame. The current one's 15 years, you know that's gonna go away, it's not forever. So similarly, if we bonded for the continuation of the roads, but also for fire and police, you know that that capture is going right to that. It's not going to be at any time spent on anything else.
That's correct.
So I feel that there's safety as a resident in that too.
And I think
Do you have projections, I'm sorry.
the big discussions that we had when talking to Bruce Township, we expressed those concerns to the residents, and they were all for potentially having to pay more because of the doubling of the price of fire.
And it's not going down.
And it's not going down, and their own police department probably really shouldn't be falling behind either.
And to Megan's point too, I mean, you look at nationally, constituent confidence in even municipal governance is at an all-time low. The more you can earmark things or attach them to specific things, I think, you know, because Megan and I spoke about this a lot after Headley did fail, and we heard from a number of residents, and one of the overall things was exactly what she said. Because at some point, what's to say you're going to spend, I understand you're saying it's for fire, but at some point, that's this board. And if this board lasts for 20 years, great. But in year 21, who else comes in? And do they say, oh, we have all this money here, let's.
They don't have the ability to do that. They have to keep it for fire and
Well, no, if it
No,
was.
if it was Headley.
If it was Headley rollback,
I'm saying
it's
that's
general
why
operating.
Headley failed, is that there was a lot of
Gotcha.
people,
Yeah.
I wasn't following where you were.
like Megan said, it was very unambiguous,
Well-
ambiguous, you couldn't.
Do we have a way of projecting what a public safety special assessment would cost, again, on average?
So I can try that.
So
In
then
what
where
way?
would the money go that we have in the general operating fund?
What's it gonna cost
So,
residents,
so what,
right?
so if we were to issue a special assessment for public safety, what most likely would happen is you'd see a new fund appear, and the fire and police expenses would move into that fund out of the general fund.
It's about, the need there is what, just over 2 million?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or, maybe even more.
police
than-
and fire and dispatch
Yeah,
together.
Yes, all
Mhm.
three together. What
Let's
is,
see.
is that what you're asking?
The
What it would
2.2,
cost, yeah.
2.3?
Let's see.
If I take your 1.4 and add the
Add the
800,000,
yeah.
you're talking.
But that's going up, right?
Well, it's gonna go up every
It's like
year.
870
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
year, yep. 7-8%, whatever it is.
Okay, so police, fire, and dispatch altogether is $2.4 million.
2.4.
That's if you went all in. You would need, what does that equate to in
Like a
a
mill?
mill? Yeah.
Let's see.
In similar fashion, think about this a little deeper, to the cemetery where we levied up to 0.75, and then last year we only actually levied at 0.37. We don't have a full need to free up that, I mean, could we use that $2.5 million? Sure, but we don't have the need for it. We could put it at those appropriate mills and then levy appropriately each year as things, just like the cemetery one, you look at it, see what the needs are, how much you actually need to capture, offsetting between the general fund and the fire.
So to generate $2.4 million would be equivalent to 10.5 mils.
Which is essentially your general fund currently.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at, is our general fund.
And you said wave a magic wand and tomorrow we have the special assessment. The money that's in our budget already allocated for fire and police, we would just shift over there?
Yes,
Do
and
we
then
have
this
to?
revenue would cover that. So then that money would free up in the general
You'd
fund.
essentially have 2.5
You'd be
in your
getting
general
extra.
fund now.
The 2.4.
And that's why I'm saying, I don't think we need to literally levy
The whole thing.
the whole
No.
thing, but you levy it there and then you adjust it each year for your actual need, so that you have the ability, when you need more, when the contract goes up, you levy it up a little bit that year to be able to capture that. Otherwise, you're constantly coming back, or you're having a continued shortfall again. Because it will roll back with the Headley.
No, special assessment, it's not like a millage.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, you as
But
a
it
board
does come
decide
up.
what it is.
You do set a timeline to it, right?
Yeah, most places set it for like 1 year at a time. Like you say, we're levying it this year
At this.
and then you decide the next year if you want to
Because
do
you
it
could do,
again.
well, for instance, well, no, not that one. You could do 5 year, you could do doesn't the schools do a certain number of years?
I'd have to look in, we could ask Mark, but
Or
I don't
I'm
know.
confusing the different funds.
Usually, when I see it done, it's usually on a year-by-year basis, so it's part of the public hearing for levying taxes,
Okay.
but the board can decide to levy it.
Which, there's more confidence in that, I feel.
You talked about 92, right? They did the assessment of the business district for the sidewalk project. Is that something else we could look at, doing similar to this, an assessment of the business district for sidewalks and maintenance of the parking lots, and then they don't need to
Well,
ask for money?
Parking
then is-
lots, I don't know. Sidewalk, I mean, if it was done before, it can be done again.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's how the parking lots were done, though.
I don't know if you could do, like, are you talking about the village would
It has to
take the
directly,
taxes and then pay the,
in
or?
a special
Oh, it'd be the
assessment, it
assessment
has
of
to
the
be,
business district, yeah.
because in the special assessment, it has to directly benefit the business in that it's a parking lot. It's not that they're you can't measure, you would be measuring the amount of sidewalk in front of their businesses.
Yeah.
How do you measure a parking lot that abuts everybody? I'm not quite sure.
Well, if you open a
Yeah.
restaurant with 50 seats, do we have a requirement of how many parking spaces you're supposed to have for 50 seats?
Yeah, there's formula.
There is a number on that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you measure. This is
Yeah,
your
but then
business,
you-
this is how many
and
spots
you're
you're
also
supposed to
counting
have.
them multiple times for multiple people.
Yeah, there's formulas to figure it out, but
I don't know about the parking lot.
Yeah, we'd have to ask the attorney
find
about
that
that.
out.
I
That'd
don't
be-
think I've seen one for a parking lot before. I have seen them for sidewalks, fire,
Street.
fire, police, rubbish.
I mean, if we could do something like an assessment like that, then include maybe snow removal of the major sidewalks and the trash pickup based on the special assessment and the upkeep and maintenance
Garbage
of
is already
parking.
taxed, rubbish is already taxed.
Yeah, that's already a tax. I was just throwing out examples
okay.
I've seen of a special assessment.
Okay.
Those that don't have a rubbish tax, they'll special assess for, sometimes for rubbish.
Okay, so then going back to the drawing board, what is the actual need to be freed up in the general fund? If we were to levy or fire safety, whatever, public safety, however you want to call it,
Mhm.
what do we actually need?
So, I mean, I guess it depends on what you want to use it for. If you want to use it for the streets, then it's the $6 million.
No, I'm just talking strictly our need of fire and safety.
Oh, it's the $2.4 million, I thought.
Right, but in the layout,
Sorry, I guess I'm not understanding your question.
over time,
Mm-hmm.
what do we need to keep us out of the red? Am I explaining it?
So,
You said if we took the projects out, you had. the
yeah,
next area.
if we take out the parking lot and then not do the streets with the capital from the SEMCOG, the general fund looks okay. It's just, the whole idea was, well, if we're gonna, was that we're gonna use general fund money to do the rest of the streets, but that's not possible. So that was the conversation in January of, that's not an option, so we either do,
So I think we need to figure out,
Bonding.
do we want to do a bond for the road, or do we
Yeah.
want to do a?
special assessment, have general fund pay for it.
Yeah, what
But
would,
that wouldn't be right now, that would have to be set aside over a few years, right?
right, but which way do you want to go? Do you want to go to the people first and ask, do you want a bond for your roads? Or do you just want to go forward, figuring it out of the fund, general fund, making a public safety, and just doing it?
Public safety assessment, does that have to be done in any certain time frame, or can we do that mid-year?
You can, no, you would have to do it in the summer, because you
Because you have
don't
to levy.
issue
Yeah.
winter taxes.
So if we
So-
don't do that now,
Wait another
we're
year.
not having, there's no election or votes or anything that can be done prior to us doing that. So if we don't do it now, we're waiting until next year
Correct.
to hear what they say, which, then, what just got turned down?
The Headley override?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. It's hard for me to see, but at
Yeah.
the bottom, you had, what was the red distinguishing, and it was in the coming years?
Yeah, so when we had the parking lot, this was just showing that it went negative if we included the parking
Oh,
lots.
so you just included, you just changed it for current
Yeah,
year?
just
Okay.
for our
So
discussion,
it
I
didn't
took the
project
parking
it
lot out,
Okay.
just to show what it looks like.
And what year did it go red?
So if we put the parking lot, we're estimating, and again, it was just an estimate of that, it would be $2 million to repave all of the parking lots.
Mhm.
If we use general fund money, because that's the only place it could come from in the village. There's no other fund that could do that. Then the village would be violating its fund balance policy and would not get out for a while.
This year? 25, 26?
27, assuming you did it in 27.
Yeah, any year we do it, it's gonna.
It's gonna
put us
cause
in
a
the
problem.
deficit. So we gotta have. But do we have to collect it all in 1 year? Can we collect smaller amounts and bank it and do it in 4 years?
The special assessment?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you could, but then you have to also hope that, again.
Increase.
it-
There's gonna be increase.
No, but you have to
Mhm.
hope that it continues.
mhm. Right, because the board could change.
And that money that's
And
freed
then
up
they don't
and is
vote for
sitting in
it.
that general fund, some other board doesn't then go spend it somewhere else.
No, it can't be spent, or set in general fund. It's gotta be in a special fund, just for that account.
Yeah, we would create a special revenue fund for police and fire where that
It's not gonna
special
sit there
assessment would
and-
come in, and
Yeah,
then
but
they would
what
see the
gets
expenses
freed
come
up
out.
in the general is just sitting
Right.
there, which is where the sidewalks would get
Well,
paid
that's
out.
where the sidewalks would come from,
Right,
or whatever
exactly.
else you wanna do.
Right.
But we wouldn't be $1.5 million in the hole.
Right.
But what I'm saying is as you're waiting those years for that, it's sitting there in the general fund.
It could just get spent.
Mhm.
Which,
So getting back to this $40,000, when I first got on the board in 2016, I didn't know if he got paid or not. And then I just began to realize, like, when I had to help with the sidewalks, I spent days walking through the whole village, finding every sidewalk that needed to be replaced, what address was responsible for. I mean, all you guys know, you get into conversations with people. People call you or they come up to you and they want to know stuff. I mean, and then like tonight, we spent a lot of time trying to do what's right. And as far as I know, I think we're the lowest paid trustees in the area, if you compare us to all the townships and stuff. Because like Matt says, we just keep it the same. So I don't know, I think it should be stayed in the budget, personally.
Agreed. I think we spend a lot of money in education and training across a few different departments, not all of them. Maybe we look at that. I mean, there's little things like that, and I know everyone says pennies don't make dollars.
But I think you're talking little things. I mean, what we're just talking about now are big things that can make a real world of difference in our budget.
We were just talking about $40,000.
Yep. But again, what we're talking about there with the special assessment district is a whole different world.
I get that, I'm just following up on Nathan's comment.
I understand.
Here, let me pull up education and training real quick for you.
Can I ask, and this is purely as a resident,
So 33,000 on education and training.
how many of the trustees have been through any of the extension programs on governance and elected leaders and continuing education, understanding policies, procedures, and laws that govern over you? And that's not throwing shade or anything. I just want to know as a resident.
Just citizen planner. That was good, I thought.
So I brought up the education and training budgets as a whole for the general fund. So about 15, almost 16,000 of that is police and dispatch, which a lot of that is required and reimbursed through grants.
Yeah.
So when you take that out, the total education and training budget for the whole general fund is about $15,000.
$15,000.
Megan, you used to take advantage of that a lot.
I did a lot of free classes, but yes. Yeah. I didn't this last year. Some of it's redundant. An OMA is an OMA, but every now and then you need a refresher.
So that training money is it restricted if it doesn't get spent, if you spent elsewhere in the general fund?
No, it's not restricted, no.
It's in a, we're not line items, so it's used in that fund.
It's part of the department.
I think it's only restricted by the supervisor. You know, if he sends his guys, he sends his guys, or if he goes, he goes.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like buying, like paper, like you buy as much as you need. If somebody needs to go to training, you send them, so the budget's available.
And the accounting and audit fees, I know are spread out among the different departments.
So all of our, like that is us as well as your outside auditor, so Cambridge, so it's both of our fees combined. So the total expense is in that line, I believe it's Department 265. And then there's an admin fee revenue that is charged to the other funds to help reimburse that cost. And that's us, Caroline, and Rebecca.
Okay. So,
What are we projected to pay Plant Moran this year?
Let me take a look. So. Okay, Okay, so our line is at 118,000, and I think your audit fee is about 15,000 of that, I think. Let me see. No, okay, let me go this way. Let me look up what Gatebridge is. Because the audit fee gets split between multiple funds. So let me take a look at what the general funds portion of that is. So the total audit fee was $19,000. Oh, the whole thing was charged to general fund, actually. So 19,000 of that 118.
So Jamie? Yes. Back in 2000, our clerk took care of all this by herself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no, we still had
She did the whole budget.
we still had someone in the office.
There was a part-time bookkeeper, I believe, on top of that.
It might have been a part-time,
Yes.
but basically, she was responsible. We didn't have anybody other than that.
So how did it morph, Matt, into what it is now?
Clerk and the treasurer did it.
I don't know. I don't know how it just kind of morphed slowly.
And it was, and they were entirely
Well,
stretched thin.
Also, back then, we didn't have health insurance for our treasurer. We didn't have health insurance for anybody. I mean, village clerk, I think, did, but that was it.
Like
Now we've added all of them, and, you know, it just keeps, things just naturally just keep growing.
Right, like your accounting
Like our legacy
requirements
costs.
continue to grow. As like an example, so the federal government passed GASB 101, which makes us totally reevaluate how we account for compensated absences. You have to implement that. There's rules to it. So it's not just that the accounting, like the day-to-day accounting of reconciling the checking account and balancing the receivables and the payables has gone up. That's pretty much the same. It's all of these additional requirements that we have to adhere by in order to keep you compliant for your audit.
I would also argue, because we just ran into this recently, there's a number, and even as soon as I came into office, there were a number of things that needed to be reported, and I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Like, we've all identified, not to beat a dead horse, but it was left in shambles. And we're trying to find all these things, access to forms, access to treasury. And when you have a constant that is the accountants that go, hey, just to remind you, this needs to be reported on, and you didn't know, and much less have any records anywhere near you, and they can go, you know what, we have I think we can figure it out from here, and we're gonna reach out to them and get this, and we'll come back and we'll compile all the requirements and move forward. They're the advisor, and it's important to have that, because without someone like them, we would have been quickly non-compliant on a number of funds that we had to report as soon as I got into office.
I'm not saying we want to go back to.
No, I'm just,
Don't get me wrong there. I'm just, over the 25 years, it's really.
Please,
We need
I'm sorry.
professional services.
In no way, shape, or form was I
There are times that we
referring
need to
to
make very quick decisions, and we need to be able to make educated decisions, and we go to the accountants and I say, can you please pull this? And within a matter of 5 minutes, they're pulling me a report in order to make a decision. It would literally, I don't even know how many days it would take us to sit there and do that, so then anyone coming in the door, any issues going on, well, you're trying to figure out these numbers.
We had an issue with a report with Treasury that if it were up to me, I would have been way in the weeds with, because they've navigated that system multiple times in their realm. We were able to
Whether it's
clear
Plant
it.
Moran or a different company, I could be any more indifferent. I love Plant Moran and they're doing well.
I think that's great.
However, just to not have a professional service to me is not an option.
I agree.
But we need to get Danielle a tall stool to sit on, to stand up there for so long.
No, I'm just kind of leaning down.
No, you're good. Sorry.
If you want to sit in Mark Clark's seat, just move the laptop over there. I don't think anyone's going to mind.
I sit all day long. This actually feels kind of good to stand up, not gonna lie.
You're a trooper.
So essentially, the decisions that we aren't making tonight, however, we do need to address are, we are fine as long as we don't repave the roads or do the parking lots.
Thank you.
I'm good, I got it, thank you.
If we would like to redo the parking lots and the roads,
Thanks.
we need to make some decisions. And that's even assuming that we get this congressional funding for the wastewater treatment plant. Otherwise, we have a lot of extra costs coming that way also.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, we're fine right now. Like I said, with the projections that were given in January, just on maintenance and upkeep, we start to go dipping into savings and start to get this scary. So that is something you guys need to, if not now, it needs to stay in the front of your minds, how we're going to address that.
Nolan, did you have something?
I mean, I don't know. I think this public safety special assessment probably helps us a lot more. It helps us do some of the, while they're all needs, the wants a little bit more. That gives us more room. It frees up a lot more money in the general fund. I mean, the roads, as much as living in the southwest quadrant, me wanting the roads done matters. At this point, we can't afford it. It is a want, so just put it on the voters if they want to do that or not.
The special assessment doesn't need a vote.
Yeah.
No,
It's
if we were to go out for bond for the roads.
Well, the bond, but we could do the, well, if we do the special assessment for the police and fire, we probably don't need a bond.
Right.
Do that, then do that just through the general fund.
If I understand you right, Nolan, you're saying you'd rather wait and let the voters make that decision if they want to spend that money.
Right, that, if we're going to special assessment for public safety, that's us basically choosing just to finish the roads. Us 6, 7 people.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas we don't really need to absolutely spend that money, we're managing, we're treading water, but we're managing. We don't have that expense if we don't do it. Put it on the ballot as a bond. If they want to do the roads, they can do the roads. I mean,
I would remind you all too, you do have negotiation contracts coming up in the next year as well for police and DPW. And wastewater.
June of this
Right.
next fiscal year.
Correct,
Yes.
but we don't know what will come out of those. Our assumptions are just a 3%, because we have
can't
no
go to
idea.
A vote of the people for some time yet, can we? And we're supposed to be making decisions.
Well, we'd have to do this year. So Nolan's plan would be waiting until next year. So,
Okay.
and the next year would go on to a vote to be put into place for the following budget, would be my understanding?
Meaning, so you would put it on the ballot in November? Is that what we're thinking? This coming November?
Or we could do August, right?
Is there a primary for, I'm trying to think, is there a primary for governor this year? No?
There must be, there's a lot of
Next year.
different people.
It's next year.
It's next year.
Next
Okay.
year?
Yep.
Oh, okay, 26.
Even years.
Because I think the townships just went through theirs.
Okay.
So we could ask, I don't know. I don't know if there's any primaries in August that you could put it on. That's a good idea.
I mean, Nolan, I hear what you're saying, but I also think it's worth mentioning, you guys were elected to make tough decisions. And sometimes those decisions are not wildly popular, but it is for the overall benefit and sustainability of the organism itself. It's not to save a job. It's not to be liked. And oftentimes governance is hard and your job is to lose your job in making those decisions. But it's for the benefit of everybody. And I'm in this day to day. I'm in this every day. I see numbers every day, as does Meg. I'm constantly talking to Danielle. I call her half the time and go, I'm so sorry for calling you again. But this requires you guys, I don't think you can defer this. It's been deferred for far too long by multiple boards and multiple leadership. And unfortunately, this is landing in your guys' lap. And it's likely not going to be a wildly popular decision. And I apologize for that, even though it's not my doing. I understand where you guys are. You guys have to make tough decisions. But you have to make the decision, because deferring any decision puts us right back where this village has been historically, which is kicking the can down the road and staring down the barrel of a gun, because it is not a, it is a panic-inducing state that when we look at everything and trying not to create hysteria, but you guys need to make tough decisions. That's all I can say as a resident and
To
the
say,
clerk.
if we put it on there and they want the roads done, they'll do it. The roads need to get done. That's really, we know that answer, right? We're in a situation, and I said it from the beginning when we first started doing the roads, we're in a situation where 3/4 of the village is done, and we need to ask the whole of the village to approve this. Why would somebody who already has their road done say, yeah, I'll take on more taxes, even though mine's already done, but my neighbor over there isn't? We're almost setting the village against itself, resident on resident. Yeah, we're not gonna be popular. We might not be reelected, but I feel like not causing chaos to the residents, we have to make a choice. And the choice is they do want their roads done. That's why they passed the bond in the first place. It was a poorly laid plan. It was never enough money to do all the roads.
I think we need to tell them that. I think we need to give them more credit. And that's what I was saying earlier. We need to go out and say, it wasn't enough. You passed it, you wanted it, it wasn't enough.
Oh, I've said that to the people on the phone, and
we want you to vote again. We want you to know what's happening. I think people will take that better.
When's my road get done?
When's
When's my road get done?
I just think
I get it.
they ought to know.
Listen, as a Lions Club member, I humbly invite you guys all to Peach Fest, because I got hammered as soon as people found out I was the newly appointed clerk. When are my roads? I'm like, whoa, I've been here a week.
Yeah.
That's a great time to just get inundated, but yeah, like I said, that's aside from the cemetery, if I'm walking, because I take walks every night, I see people, and especially in the southwest quadrant, hey, when are my roads getting done? I'm like, I'm sorry, yeah, it was a poorly laid plan, we're trying to work on it. That's what I tell them.
I think everybody voted for that, thinking the whole thing was gonna get done, and they wanted the whole thing done. People didn't vote saying, I want this quadrant or that quadrant. So if we go back and say, it wasn't enough, there's one quadrant left, and you appeal to the greater good of the whole village. I mean, we're 4,000 people. We all care about
We're all in
this
this
place.
together.
Pardon me?
We're all in this together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they have a right to understand it better too. I think they'll understand it better.
How much would we assess if we did the public safety special assessment?
We just said to cover it all,
What's
it'd be
the amount?
2.4. To cover all the public safety would be around 2.4,
Yeah, but it probably
2.5.
wouldn't
10.5 mils.
10.5 mils.
You probably wouldn't need to cover it all. You probably only need to cover 1.5 million of it.
Where do you get that from?
Well, that's the shortcoming.
Currently, right, but that's.
To fulfill just next year.
Well, then the next year, whatever, we can do 1.6 or whatever. But
Yeah.
you don't have to cover the whole 2.4
No.
immediately.
That's a good solution.
I mean, I would argue for going more than you think you need, so you can bank it and hopefully make interest on it, and then it covers, and then as you drop it, then you can offset it with
But
whatever reserve.
unfortunately, the idea of government is not to create a bank.
I know, but it's also to pay your bills when they come in, and right now, that's a scary proposition.
What does 10.5 cost average homeowner?
Let's take a look. So,
I was just saying, easily, your general fund right now is right around there. Your
yeah,
taxes
so
would practically
10.5
double.
mils would be about $975 a year.
Wow. Yep.
My homeowners just went up to $6,000.
That's to cover the whole 2.4.
Yeah, you'd almost be.
Yeah, so if we can cut that in half,
You'd almost be there at what
or
the school.
60%,
levies.
or 40, cut it by 40%.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying that with the school, and they're coming back at you guys again.
So 6.5 mils approximately is $602. Increase to the tax bill,
What was
the
that,
average tax.
$50 a month?
6.5 mils.
Is how much?
It comes to about $602, $603 on the average taxpayer.
For 100,000.
just.
Yeah, for like, the average is
The average,
92,761.
yeah, it's per
It's
$100.
$50 a month.
Yeah.
That would- For a $100,000 value.
And that would get you there in how long?
Yeah,
It's a
think
lot.
of all the seniors that are.
How long?
coming too.
It's a lot.
How long until we had it
I'm
on?
going on a fixed income.
Right, so in order to get to the 6 million to redo the roads, I mean, assuming it stays around 6 million. Right? I think I have too much in there.
Billing.
Yeah, I have too many zeros in there. I was like, that doesn't look right. 4 years.
Plan on 5.
And that's if it stays around $6 million.
Yeah, it's not going to.
And how much would that be per home?
If you levy 6.5 mils, there's different ways you can levy it. You can, I believe you can do either like a millage style or a flat rate. But if you were to do like a millage style, it would be about $603 on the average taxpayer for their bill for the year.
That, yeah.
Whereas in the bond, we're paying it over 15
15.
years.
Well, we can wait, we'll hold the whole thing off till next November, see what happens in the bond, and then we can make the decision.
Next year.
That is an option.
They're not popular decisions, but.
Or we do a even smaller assessment for, public safety to capture something now.
We can do that.
To put that offset into,
Something like 2 mils or something like that. Just throwing a number out there.
Yeah, for parking lots.
Right, and this is just the streets, that's not the parking lots.
Yeah.
This is the 6 million for the streets.
can you find out if we can do an assessment for the business district or parking?
For
district,
parking
PDA,
lots?
Whatever we wanna call it.
Yeah, I can
The
ask.
Parking lot, sidewalks and that aspect of it,
Yeah.
Sidewalks, yes, for sure.
we know that for sure, yes.
I'm just writing my,
And if we could exclude residents,
Yeah, for
actual
the businesses.
single family dwellings within the DDA, just the businesses
yeah,
in the DDA.
Not many, but there are a few.
There are some homes, yeah, there's quite a few.
I don't think there is.
Quite a few.
Back by the village park, there's a line of homes.
Yeah, but
There's a handful.
yeah, they should be taken out.
And then there's a few behind, jails, right? There's houses back in there also.
Forget about those.
Yeah.
I usually just think of the
now, two, if you wanna think long-term though, so if you levy the special assessment for public safety, right, to cover your costs for police, fire, and dispatch, you then free up that money in the general fund. Let's say you do the roads, you do the parking lots, you can levy less in the general fund after that if it's not needed. Keep that in mind as well. It's not forever.
Or then you don't levy the public safety.
Safety, right, or then you don't
Like,
levy the
yeah.
public safety millage.
Yeah, we can play with those numbers, just so we cover
Mhm.
our tail ends.
Right.
We don't have to go the full route each way, each time.
So it's not like once we do this, it's
Forever.
forever.
Like you said before, Megan, you can renew it every year and
Yeah, to what is needed that
Mhm.
year, and if it's no longer needed, then it's.
Mhm. Right, so you could set as a board, we'll do this for 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years, and then whatever that term is up, then you reevaluate and decide if you want to keep it or not.
fire department goes up every year. And I'm sure the
Yeah, I
police
don't see that
department might as well.
stopping any time soon.
Has anyone ever talked to DTE about doing an energy audit? No?
I would just guess not.
No, I know that there was a conversation 3-4 years ago. Switching out lights, street lights, that sort of thing, but the cost of it, we were in the hundreds of thousands at that point to switch
For
over. Yeah, it was,
upfront cost.
yeah, it just didn't make sense.
Okay. So looking kind of back to where we are. So we have a budget in front of you. Right now it has the salaries taken out. What would we like, what's our next step on just the budget for 26? Where do we want to go
So we
with this?
approve the council board salaries taken up?
We haven't
no
approved
action
anything.
tonight.
Yeah, we're
This is
not
a draft.
approving anything. It's just what would you like me to give to you to look at, I guess is what I'm
Put it
asking.
back in?
I agree with that. Do you want to, well, I guess we don't have to really somehow put this, we just have to see those final numbers, right? Before we make any kind of a decision whether to wait till November or maybe levy a mill or two for special assessment.
Yeah, at this
uh,
point, we're good. We are not doing the streets, we are not doing the parking lots, so our budget is good. But if we want to do those things, we do need to
Yep.
eventually make a decision.
And that's why we're starting the talks now.
Yes.
So then if we decide, okay, 27 is the year, well, we've already discussed it in
Well, let's
25.
go with Nolan's idea then and go with the, wait until November and take the vote.
And still do a partial amount for special assessment?
Do we want to, or just want to sit, if we
We might
don't
as
do
well.
anything, we don't do the parking lots and all that, then we don't need the special assessment.
Yeah, but then we lose one more year that we could have been capturing money to eventually go towards
Well,
that.
That's a decision I guess we'll have to make. But I'd be for maybe a mill or two, but we don't have to go 5, 10, or anything like that at this point.
Roll back our road mills too.
Hmm?
Our street mills.
Yeah.
We're severely under in that.
Let me take a look at
Or
where that's
like-
at.
I feel like that is allowable up to 5.
Danielle was
I
saying,
think
we can
so.
roll back the millage on the general fund.
Well, that already went to the vote of the people and was knocked down. I think what Megan is asking is I'll roll back on the municipal street funds levy.
Play it either way.
I'm trying to get to the L4029, just a minute. Okay, so the street mill is currently at 1.4 mils.
And I feel like it can be up to 5.
I think in village law, general village law.
And so that captures,
Mhm.
again, you get 4 mills there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a fund of which only goes to.
Yeah, 2 roads, yes. We would have to ask Mark, but I mean, I agree with you, Megan. I think it is general village law. It is 5 mils max a village could levy on a highway. But I don't know the mechanism, since it's kind of set at 1.5, how that would work. We would have to ask him if that's a vote of the people or something the board can institute.
Yeah, okay, that's another thing to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess as it sits, I've heard enough people say that they want to be paid for their time.
Okay.
It seems that is where we're at.
Okay.
So
we will stick with the 2025-26 recommended.
are there any other adjustments that the council would like to see? At this point, we either are asking for continued adjustments to be seen, and we will schedule another budget meeting, or you will see this in May as a request to approve it.
Well, I guess the other open question still is the cemetery.
Yeah, and the DDA.
Cemetery.
And yeah.
Business district assessment,
Mhm.
I'd like to see that, if we gotta have another meeting. So, on the village council, I understand probably some of the, like, pension contributions, stuff like that is probably Megan, but if we go to the planning commission, define pension,
So
I mean, it's only $377, but
It's,
what is that?
that was Cindy.
It's your staff.
So
So
Cindy,
that can't be, it's showing being removed, then that can't be removed, right?
she's no longer with the village,
Yeah, but someone replaced her.
but not with a pension, I don't believe.
She qualifies after 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or you could
Okay.
just have your secretary take the minutes.
I see. What's that too?
So are you saying you want to set another budget meeting, or you
I'd
want to
like to-
just see the proposed in May with the final in June? What do you want to do?
So she proposed in May to make edits.
You'll see everything we've done finalized and cleaned up in May. You'll see the DDA and the cemetery in here.
Mm-hmm.
That will be our last chance to make any further edits when it comes before you in June.
Unless we did another special after May, if needed.
After May's.
But it's gonna be a tight schedule between the next two.
How long is it gonna take you to put all this together and find out about it?
Well, it's already together. It would just have to be put into a format for public hearing, which is just summarizing it.
I guess I was questioning still with the special assessments for,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the budget document. The special assessments for the businesses, we'd have to get the answer on that from, I think, Mark Clark, on if that's allowed. I've never heard of that. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Are you speaking sidewalk?
sidewalk parking.
Yeah. The sidewalks, I think we know. It was already done. It's the parking lot of special assessing just the businesses to redo the parking lot, the village-owned land.
I feel like that doing that this year, in the time frame we have, is not feasible. But that's fine.
Well, can't hurt to get the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we can-
agree with you, Megan, but it can't hurt to get the answer.
No,
So we got it in our pocket.
I agree, we'll look into it, but given the time frame we're at in needing to levy, I don't think we'll be prepared for next year.
Yep.
Okay, so then we're gonna sit on the cemetery levy then for now. You guys want to think about it, or I guess where are we landing with that?
What was the amount we brought them down to?
0.37. They can levy up to 7,174. So an additional third of a mil.
I don't know, I guess just sit with it for now.
Well, I thought they had things they wanted to do.
Well, if
They have the money.
Yeah, if they don't buy that skidster and they have residual from this year, they'll have enough to at least start their project. If not, based on the numbers we see, I mean, it looks like enough to do that project.
Even with the skid steer, don't they have 130 remaining?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then remember, then that fund has no fund balance to fall back on.
Right.
So if it goes into a deficit, it will require subsidy from the general fund to keep it out of a deficit.
And part of that fund also pays for the salaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's in there.
But that's all calculated.
That's in there.
So I mean, maybe
So-
we can add a little bit, but.
That was a very large salary increase in the cemetery.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was,
I know. I mean,
Went from-
nothing I have to say anyone wants to hear.
yeah, I saw that. It went from
But
30 to.
it's a budget process, and yeah, it went from
39 to 52.
He went from the supervisor to the
so
sexton.
that
If you're
includes
talking-
DPW.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
that covers some of DPW.
Yes.
Is that different than the year before then?
Yeah.
Because that's about a, what, a 36% increase, 38% increase? No, maybe.
Keeps going down on me. Okay, so if we get down to,
I just said something, I forgot about that.
so in '24, I don't believe Mitchell was full-time yet. Yeah, he definitely wasn't. See. So then he became full-time in '25
And receive benefits.
and received benefits in '25. So the salary cost went up to 52,000. So then an increase to 56, and that includes DPW workers, not just Mitchell.
So in 23, 24,
Mm-hmm.
we had 37,000 in full-time employees. So that was all DPW.
All DPW and a little bit of Mitchell when he started.
We had 2 part-timers,
Okay.
so there was no extras there.
When did Mitchell start?
Well, there, again, he started as a part-time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, he was part-time.
So what is his salary?
He was here he was already here, so I feel like it was 21.
But he was
I know
part-time
he
though.
was here for sure by when the time I came in 22.
I thought he became full-time in 25. I could be wrong, my memory could be failing me, but I thought that's when he became full-time.
Well, because he was split. He was split between, he was with the cemetery during the warmer months, and then went into the office and was paid, I think, through the.
Yeah, through the clerk's office, I
through the
believe.
clerk's
Yes,
office.
you're correct. That
Yes.
sounds right, yes. I do remember that now. I'm looking for you, Shelley, just a minute.
What did he do for the
It's
clerk's
coming up.
What's that?
What did he do for the clerk's office?
He would assist
Logging,
Kathy.
What's
cataloging.
Other cemetery stuff.
Trap had him doing some work in the office.
And now Mitchell has fully taken over the cemetery. He is the sexton. So he's taken over everything. I'm still helping him with certain things as far as documents and filing and retention and compliance, but he is a quick learn, and every day he's pulling more and more on. And every day he's actually spending more and more time in the office with that stuff, which is why they just got a new part-timer, and they also have in their budget to have another part-timer if need be, if he's off-site, because his roles and responsibilities have expanded greatly. And he's doing a great job at it.
So his salary is 53,000 of that 56. So because he's full-time cemetery, the time needed by the DPW has been reduced.
It's 53. He'll be 53.
Yeah, he'll be 53 in the next budget, yes.
So Mitchell will be 53.
Yes, but because he's there full-time, you don't need as much DPW workers to maintain the cemetery.
So he's currently around 49, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So 9% increase.
I don't think he got a 9% increase.
If he's at 49, he's going to 53.
Remember, that includes DPW workers, that's not
Well,
just
I took
him.
it was 52.
Okay.
Right, so I'm just assuming 3,000 this year, 3,000 last year, 49, 1.0.
Let me pull up the 25 budget to get you exactly what his pay is.
8.5%, 8%.
Yeah, he,
raise.
no, he didn't, there's not an
But maybe
8.5%
that's not
on
correct. I'm just
his.
looking at the numbers I got in front of me.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, he didn't get an 8% raise in the budget.
I mean, I know it would be a lot of paper, but I'm assuming there's a lot of subcategories under a lot of this stuff that we don't see. Is that correct?
No.
Like, well, you're just saying like the salaries. I see a total number of 56.
Oh, there's multiple people within that salary
so
line,
there's-
yes, correct. Yeah,
Most of these lines probably have subcategories below them,
Well,
that gives you
they're-
those totals.
they're right here.
Yeah.
So like, here's the 25 budget. So the current budget, the original adopted budget. It's been amended, but. So these are all the workers that are estimated to be in the cemetery line.
Is there a reason we don't get that information?
It's just a giant calculation spreadsheet. I can certainly provide it to you, but I mean, it's us just doing trends and looking at raises as put in by the department heads. I could certainly give this to you, but it's just us doing calculations. It's just, like you see, it's just giant spreadsheets.
Because, I mean, not even just for
Yeah.
the salary lines, I'm looking at anything like where was the village beautification, right? Like, yeah, I see the total, right, 82,400, but what is in that, that line?
82,400.
For instance, I'm not saying you gotta look that one up right now. I'm just saying, I see what Shelley's saying, that some of that might be nice to see.
So, again, if you, like in the beautification line, right?
Yeah.
We know how much that the village spends about every year, so that's what we budget. If you want us to go through and line item that and footnote it, that will take a ton of time on every single line. There's thousands of accounts. Which is why we take the basis of, okay, typically they spend, let's say, $10,000 in beautification every year. It looks like they have things that they normally spend, so we'll increase that by an inflation rate. If they don't spend it, great.
Right.
But if you want us to go through and footnote every single detail line, I can pull up the chart of accounts. I mean, there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of lines.
Yeah, I just look at like 23, 24 in that line, we spent 58, 200. We projected 80 for 24, 25, we're currently at 15. Even if we double that to 60, what is justifying going up to 82?
So it's 80 times 3%.
Exactly, so if we don't see that breakdown of why or what we're not spending it on, why are we projecting 82 in that line if we're currently only spending 15?
Because so what you're looking at is activity, and I'm assuming beautification happens in spring and summer. So I don't think those expenses have come in yet that you're seeing in the activity of only spending $15.
But they would have been last summer in here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 58.
So do you want me to reduce the beautification budget to $15?
No, I'm just saying, I was just using that
Yeah.
as an example of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see all these subcategories and see how everything breaks down, and we don't see the trend, right?
Okay.
And that's the conversation at the table.
Yeah.
Trees. Is that trees?
Beautification, I think so. Trees, and then I think like planting flowers, but I can look it up. So let me see. Village beautification, right?
We mulch and spray weeds and.
Is it village? It must not be. It must just be beautification. Do you know the account number? That'd be easier for me to look up. Is it 824 you said?
806?
806, thank you.
Example, but, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to look for the department there. Oh. There it is. Say I knew it was a 400. Right, so we spent $60,000 last year.
48.
I think somebody actually increased this to 80,000 during the board meeting, if I remember correctly. I think we had it at 60 last year, and then there was a change made to make it 80. So then we assume that same budget. So if you want to take it down, we certainly can. We can take it down to 60. So it was spent in 24.
Sounds like a good idea, but we're not sure really why. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, all I can
We're
see is
cutting
what we
something
spent
out,
in
we don't-
24 and what we've currently spent. And even if we double what we spent, we're basically where we were in 24.
They must have had something.
Yeah, I don't know, that was this past budget, this past year.
So it looks like trees.
It's trees.
Mhm. So there was trees taken down.
Tree trimming, things like that?
Tree removal,
Tree
most likely.
removal?
Yeah.
We put 40 grand, we've always had 40 grand.
So I remember this conversation. now.
Yes.
You-
Yeah.
you brought- Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so that's why we increased the budget. So if you don't want that activity to happen, then we can certainly take it down.
I'm saying you need to leave it there. As soon as we get this assessment and we're gonna need or want to address the trees,
Mhm.
that's where it's gonna come from.
Certainly a safety issue.
Yeah, and this is in the municipal street fund. So are we saying we would move that to general under the tree board and out of the municipal street fund, or would we keep it there after we do this assessment?
I say we keep it as is. The tree board
Okay.
receives their money, keep that there. And if we
Mhm.
need to eventually, then
Okay.
we do. But until we see what the need is or the proposal is,
Mhm.
it's there for the village to spend. Because once you put it in the tree board budget, the village cannot spend the tree, like, that is their money to spend.
Well, no, it goes back into the general fund. You could choose to reduce the
I'm just
budget.
saying,
Yeah.
when a need comes up, if we didn't have that money, I
Yeah.
can't just go spend the tree board's money on my own.
No, but if it was in the
Gotcha.
general fund, we could do an adjustment then,
Mhm.
right? Then that just makes the bottom line.
But didn't it just change though that we're saying now the tree board has to approve it before? Is that what we're saying?
Not if it's in the
There's
general.
a step? I don't know.
I think the tree board has to be brought aware of, and what was the new stuff, brought aware of an approval of removal? Is that what it was?
They're the ones scheduling it and arranging it.
Okay. So do we want to leave the 82 here? Because again, it was something brought up by the board that was increased to 80, I believe.
Yeah.
So that there's an expected
I would say
activity to happen.
going with current activity is fine.
Okay.
Take it to 60 then?
Take it down to 60? Okay.
And again, it just goes back to general,
General.
so if there's a bigger need, then we
We
readjust
yeah.
it.
Budget
All the money is
It's all
there.
there.
Okay, 60,000. And that's in the municipal street fund.
Okay, circling back, are we making another budget meeting, or are we waiting till what we see in May and then making a decision at that meeting?
I wouldn't be opposed to another meeting.
What date you looking at?
Is there a day of the week that works better?
1, 2, 3. So our next meeting that we'll see is the 19th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if we want to have the tax rates
Yeah.
on the 19th meeting for a public hearing, we would need to know what we want to do by next Thursday.
How does next Tuesday look?
6th.
I mean, that's the day after Cinco de Mayo. No, just-
Might be
I'll
rough.
be fine.
I think we'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
It's fine with me, I
Yeah.
Okay.
guess.
May 6th?
Yeah.
I can call a special budget meeting for that, as we don't have anything on our agenda to be making decisions tonight, so I will just call us a special meeting for the 6th.
Good.
Okay. So then what? Yeah, okay. So,
Are you available, I guess we should say?
yes, I am.
Okay.
So what would you like me to bring to that meeting for you then? So it sounds like we're putting the salaries back into the general fund.
Yes, cemetery, we need to have a decision by, so everybody come ready to make a decision of where we want the cemetery mills, and where will we be with the DDA budget?
Yeah, so I think the DDA 26 budget was sent today to
Theirs
Kay.
will be the day before you're approving it, so we can have that at our table.
Okay, we can have that as well. Okay, so DDA budget, cemetery, and updated draft, which is
Yeah.
basically,
Can I get the draft? We're gonna get the draft tomorrow, assuming that's what they stick. I'm gonna just at least send you guys the draft, whether it's adjusted or not, so that you're not getting it the night before the DDA budget.
Okay.
So if it's adjusted at the table, I'll let you know at that point, that night, but at least you have some basis of what they're gonna be asking for.
Oh, that's May 5th, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
if that's it,
Am I able to, if any of these I would like a breakdown on, can I email you?
sure, I mean, what it's gonna be is, here's all the activity that
Yeah.
happened and the 3% increase on that.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's a year-over-year activity, I mean, we use every line, they don't use the same vendors every time,
I'm not
same
talking
things.
100 lines.
Okay.
There's just, yeah, it's going through. It might only be about 72, but.
Okay.
But there's a handful, but.
Yeah.
And I'll get
Sure.
you an email after.
Yeah.
okay. Mr. Fowler,
Motion to adjourn?
we have a motion by
Support.
Mr. Fowler, support by Parker, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9:28.